Ravi.
Get on the board on Tuesday. Get online at 4:15 and not speak till 6:30 is enough to just kill you. I mean, at least I was at home, but, and Rom spoke. He was terrible.
Is our mic on? So.
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Anand joined.
Hey guys.
You guys hear us?
Let me know you're able to see me.
We do not, Anand, we do not see your black screen.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Do we have Jordan, Ravi, Rose, Anand? All right. I think we have 6.
Robbie. Oh, he just doesn't have a camera.
Unfortunately, you guys saw in the email, Pat has had just a terrible couple of years. My God.
Still 2 minutes from.
So she unfortunately had a death of a close friend, somebody who
That's who she was. At least she got to be with her.
yeah, caring for over the past couple of months. And that's just unfortunate to hear from Pat. So anyway, she will not be with us this evening. That's just terrible bunch of luck. Her past 2 years is the crappiest ever.
Yet she still smiles.
She does. I don't know how.
Yeah.
So. So guys, before we get started, Rick is going to, I'll call the meeting to order and Rick will MC the beginning part of it.
After the intro.
After the intros, of course. So we'll just intro yourselves. That makes it a lot easier. Then I'll have Rick just kind of MC things. And then we will show the latest video from today. We do have the Brambleton group online meeting. We're not going to show the whole hour plus. We're going to show the first 20 minutes, which was the presentation piece. And then we'll go into, as the agenda says, board forum, resident forum, and then if there's any discussion to be had, we'll have that afterwards. I'm probably going to limit the speakers to 2 minutes. We've got, I think, 18 or 19 now. 19
plus. Yes.
Yeah. I don't
open it up to anyone.
Can we call people in a certain order?
No, put it on the registration.
keep it on the registration list.
Can we call by a certain order rather than waiting for somebody to raise their hand?
I'm thinking we're just not going to open it to the floor unless you guys have some.
Oh, well, you're going to ask these people.
Oh, these people.
So
of
we
course.
asked
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As part of the registration, if you wanted to speak.
Right. So, but are you going to say, okay,
So I've
Robbie?
got them in order by who's want to speak by the time.
I
they
got it,
register.
I got it.
So we can just kind of go down the
If
list.
I will allow if somebody comes on late and just we've skipped over them because of something, we'll go back to it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Rick, I think, do we need to have an open forum period of every
Yep.
meeting? I don't think we can avoid that.
I mean, having residents asked to speak?
Yes, even if they didn't sign up, I think we still have to have an open forum.
Okay. All right.
That's the resident form, right? Isn't that the same thing? You mean the resident form?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see the resident form. Yeah. Okay.
I misunderstood. I thought you were trying to say that you were just going to limit it to who was signed up.
Yes, that's fine. I was actually going to do that. So you you did get me right. But all right, we'll open it to people after that.
Okay, yeah, we have to make sure we allow for that.
Oh, I didn't realize it was. Do we have to?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll play on the side of
The way
safety.
things are going, let's keep it open.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it is a resident forum. We asked them if they wanted to speak and they declined.
Yeah, I thought
They could
it.
change their
I
mind.
thought it's special meeting. but that's
Yeah,
fine.
I-
That does-
Yeah,
All right.
even with a special meeting, I just actually had the joy of having a special meeting. And so that was the advice I received from our shared council.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we shouldn't ask residents to register then to speak, but that's fine. Either way
It
works.
gives you a heads up at least.
Right. No, fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
All right, we should call it to order.
Is it open? Everybody can hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, guys, why don't we call the meeting to order? So folks, thank you for everybody who's out there watching us. We're going to go through brief introductions for those who don't know the board. And then we're going to go straight into the agenda where Rick will MC kind of some of these items on the agenda. And we'll get to today's video from the Brambleton group in a meeting that they held earlier this afternoon. But for those who don't know me, I am Brian Viola. I'm the president of the board. Have been on the board here for 10 years. I'll turn it to Sue next, since she's next to me.
Sue Wolford, resident director and vice president of the board.
Jordan, why don't you take it up in the upper left?
Jordan Karate, resident director and treasurer.
Anand. Anand, introduce yourself. Anand. Hello, Anand. All right, we have Anand Mohan out there, who is our secretary. Ravi.
Ravi Balaram, resident and board member. Thank you.
Rose.
I'm not able to hear you. Are you able to hear me?
We can now, Anand. Go ahead.
Those fancy headsets.
There's always something. All right, Anand, we're moving by. Rose, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Linder. I am a Brambleton resident and also a Declarant appointed board member.
Thank you. Rick, do you want to introduce you?
Yeah, Rick Stone, general manager and resident of the community as well.
All right, go ahead.
I'm Era, BCA staff.
All right, is there anybody else from BCA online?
No.
Okay, perfect. Well, then why don't we just move right into the rezoning overview? Next item on the agenda. Rick, if you wouldn't mind emceeing this for us, please.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the agenda here. Oops. I always struggle with this.
Hang on, it's coming.
Not even, I got too much open or something.
All right, how many people are online?
29,
20. Yeah,
23.
perfect. That's including the board or no?
No.
Okay, not including.
It's up there on the top, it says 29.
Oh, I see. Yep.
One second.
All right, sorry, folks. Hang on one more sec. We'll pull the agenda up.
I am. Do you have the agenda available? I mean, it's open, but I'm not seeing it in the shareable.
That's on the chat too.
There we go. We got it.
All right, so on page 3 of the packet, the packet was sent to everyone who registered, I believe, before 5 o'clock.
Hang on.
So they should all have this.
Hey, Jordan, can you see it?
No, I don't have it up.
Oh, hang on. No.
No. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, go to page 3.
You see it now?
Thank you.
All right. So the agenda was put together. It's been 3 days, I believe, Monday into Tuesday, and was distributed to the board on Tuesday. It was also posted to the website, as well as sent to all the attendees who registered before the deadline. I believe Era has also attached it in the chat, so if you need to access it. Really, the point of, I guess, tonight's meeting is really to pull all this information together that's recently come out. And I say recently, so some new information that's come out, along with the information that's been out there since the 2020 annual meeting. So at the last board meeting, the board briefly discussed this and attempted to take some action on this. However, the agenda, it wasn't on the agenda. So it was kind of, we really didn't have all the information. So out of that meeting came the need to obviously get up to speed and pull together this information. They had the county meeting since then. We've since talked to the developers. We've since pulled all the various information together in a comprehensive manner and have put that out there. We created a website that has all this information along with a lot of county zoning information. And got with the developer, and some of the outcome from the county meeting was the developer needed to schedule community meetings, which they have, and they held their first meeting today at 12:30. So in the packet, I've got the application based primarily for reference purposes, the 2020 video, the 2021 video, kind of a summary that in the packet, you'll see the looking into the future 2021 and beyond. That's a summary really of the 2020 video that was put out at that same time by the developer.
Can you scroll down on that?
And then on page 4, we just, in preparing for this, and the association had received several questions and concerns about what they did for getting word out to the residents. So we put that together and sent some more stuff out in the flash, some more information in the flash. The County Board of Supervisor meeting, I know, is out there on Facebook, and we've got a reference to that here as well. We were originally going to go over that tonight because that's all we've had until this meeting took place today. So we've actually got their presentation, and instead of showing a dated video, we want to show some of the changes that the developers made to the application, really to try to put us all on a level understanding of what's going on and what the developer is actually proposing versus some of the information that's out there.
Do you want to, so folks, the video you're going to see, the presentation there was roughly about 1 hour and 10 minutes long for those who weren't on today at 12:30. So we're going to show you the first 20 minutes, which is the presentation piece. The last 40-ish minutes were question and answer. We recommend everybody, take the time to walk through it. We will not be showing it here tonight just for time purposes, but there will also be 4 more meetings that the Brambleton group will be holding. It's out in emails that we've sent out. If you don't have that information, let us know. We can send you that email again for the upcoming other 4 meetings. I know 2 are the first week of February. 1 is next week, maybe 2 are next week, and 2 are next week. I think something like that. Anyway, so So anyway, without any further ado, we'll get into this. And this happened, like I said, today at 12:30 is when we saw this. So go ahead, Rick.
All right.
I think it's already started, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yep, we'll check that.
Hang on, everybody. We'll get it. What's the play arrow down bottom?
Bear with us. First one of these, by the second or third will be like a well-oiled machine. Okay, awesome. So very, very quickly, the name of the application is Brambleton South Industrial Properties. The application number that links it to the process in the county is ZMAP 2020-0003. Next slide. Okay. Next slide. Awesome. So you all are intimately familiar with this current development map, at least, the bones and the structure of it. Everything that's in red is a unit or a home that is owner occupied, right? It's a home that somebody has purchased, somebody's living in. And so that is all the established portions of Brambleton. Everything that's in purple is what we would consider to be, in that tweener experience, right? We've got some lots that have been delivered out to end users and homeowners, but there might be some additional units within that section that still are yet to be delivered or yet to be constructed. And then everything that's yellow here is a lot that is not yet for sale, is not yet owner occupied. It's a section that's yet to come. So as you look at this overall map, what you can see is that the vast majority of Brambleton is fully built out. And additionally, we've got, Birchwood and then a small section in the northwest corner of Brambleton that is in the middle of selling right now, not fully sold out. One update on this slide is that the section that's just south of the town center, the townhome section, I'm circling it right now, that should be red. And in our next version of this map, we will turn it red. And then what is blue on this map are undeveloped parcels yet to be developed. And you'll see the 3 parcels on the southern end of the community. So I know the HOA has presented an exhibit identifying these parcels, and the HOA has identified this parcel as parcel 1, this parcel as parcel 2, and the parcel we're talking about today has been identified in the map provided by the HOA as parcel number 3. All 3 of these parcels are on the southern end of Brambleton, and they have been long been planned by the county to be developed in the case of 1 and 3 for industrial. And in the case of parcel 1 and the part of parcel 3 have been also zoned for industrial uses for many, many years. When Brambleton was first approved, there was a vision that you would put residential, in one portion of the community, and then in another portion of the community, you would do your residential development. What's important to note about this exhibit is that parcel number 3 is on the south side of the Broad Run floodplain. We saw some comments from people after the public hearing a couple weeks back that said, if you're going to do data centers, you ought to do it on parcel 3. And so we're grateful that there is some consistency that yes, putting it on the other side of the floodplain from the balance of Brambleton makes a lot of sense. The parcels 1 and 2 that I already identified, those parcels are in for a rezoning right now. And we're hoping that they get to actually public hearing in the county later this year, later in 2022. Those parcels would be rezoned for residential development largely. And this parcel that I'm circling right now in particular is currently zoned for industrial. There is the option to do data center there by right today, but Brambleton, the developer, is proposing to take it out of that zoning designation that would permit by right data centers and to put it into residential, recognizing the incompatibility of data centers right across Evergreen Mills Road from that property. And so that's forthcoming, but wanted to give you a heads up that was approved today, or rather entitled today, and that we're looking to change that so we don't put data centers across the street from residential. Next slide. And this is the location of the property. In 2019, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors looked at this area, looked at this part of the county and said, does this property and the parcels around it make sense to be planned for something different? And what you can see here is that the parcel itself is right in the airplane path of Dulles Airport. It's also surrounded by data centers here and here and here, and very close to the Novak Service Center on Evergreen Mills Road. As a result, next slide. And before I could move to even the next slide, the existing zoning on the property, as you look at this property, is split between PDGI, planned development, general industrial, even heavier industrial development than would be permitted by PDIP, which is what we're requesting, and CR1, Countryside Residential 1. Because of its location within the 65 LDN, which is a noise contour that relates to Dulles Airport. Because of that, residential development is prohibited in this area. And so you can see here that the vast majority of the property that we would put data centers on is zoned PDGI. It's adjacent to PDGI land. And as a result of that and its location within the 65 LDN, next slide, the county changed the designation for the property to plan it for suburban industrial mineral extraction. This plan was passed by the Board of Supervisors in June of 2019, and everything that's got that blue wash on it is planned for suburban industrial mineral extraction. Next slide. Suburban industrial mineral extraction as a place type, and the place type and the plan for the county says this is what we'd like to see developed on the property. You can see that the core uses are things like general and heavy manufacturing and assembly, warehousing, contractor with outdoor storage, data centers, outdoor storage, public utility, quarry, things of that nature, what this land is supposed to be used for. Brambleton looked at this use and said, okay, data centers are the most compatible of those uses, given its location at the absolute southern end of Brambleton, and as a result, filed the application that we're here to talk about. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And this, as I said earlier, this property is separated from the residential community to the north by significant area of floodplain. The Broad Run floodplain runs right through here. And because it's really hard to tell scale here, we have measured the floodplain and estimate it to be approximately 800 feet wide, not in the widest part, not in the narrowest part, but roughly 800 feet wide. So obviously 800 feet is a couple football fields. It's a significantly wide section of the Broad Run floodplain. And not only is that a significant separation just in distance, but next slide, there's also significant areas of tree conservation on the property. And everything that you see on this slide that's purple is tree conservation area. And so there's also, so when we come in and we do this development, these are areas that we've proffered to preserve as tree conservation area. To be clear, we're talking about data center. Let me change the color of my pen. Data center development, did not change. Data center development on the east side of Belmont Ridge Road. And we're proposing just PDIP uses on this side of Belmont Ridge Road. Now, since the public hearing, we've reduced the scope or the possible intensity of our development. So when we were at the public hearing at the Board of Supervisors, our proposal was for 4 million square feet of data center development. And it was just a strict application of the formula by the county of acreage times floor area ratio to come up with 4 million square feet of development. Our next version of the proffers will reduce that permitted development intensity from 4 million square feet to 2 million square feet. So we're cutting the possible density on the east side of Belmont Ridge Road in half. And similarly, we're reducing the possible intensity of development on the west side of Belmont Ridge Road in half as well. So that possible maximum density on the west side of Belmont Ridge Road would be 350,000 square feet. Now, one of the things, if you watched the hearing that you heard Supervisor Buffington ask us to consider would be to proffer out some uses on the west side of Belmont Ridge Road. And so in addition to reducing the possible maximum square footage that could be constructed on the west side, we're also proffering out the possibility of doing data centers on the west side of Belmont Ridge Road, proffering out data centers as well as monopoles. And so we are trying to, eliminate what we perceived to be the most concerning uses on the west side of the property. Next slide. As we talk about floodplain and we talk about tree conservation areas, obviously there may be, somebody might go, wait a minute, what's going on from an environmental perspective? We worked very closely with the county's natural resources team through this process, through our rezoning process, to determine, to work through any possible concerns or issues. And we have no outstanding concerns or issues from the natural resources team. If you did what I did every single day, you go, that's a pretty big achievement. Most applications end up at the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors with still remaining natural resources issues. We don't have any. And this is in part because we are committing to such a significant area of tree conservation. We've got our SCR buffer, which is a river and stream corridor resources buffer, which means that outside of the floodplain, we will put another 50 foot of no touch, no developed buffer around the floodplain. We're doing multiple LID measures, and LID is a low impact development measure, which treats any of the stormwater, the rainwater runoff to ensure that it's treated before it runs into the floodplain or any of the streams. Pervious parking spaces, latest habitat survey language to ensure that we're not, in developing this property, that we're not inadvertently impacting any species. We're also committing to use Northern Virginia native species with an emphasis on Northern Virginia native species. And so really trying to ensure that this is as environmentally sensitive a project as possible. And then additionally, a mechanical equipment testing restriction to ensure that the mechanical equipment is not tested in hours that could in any way, shape, or form impact our neighbors. Next slide. Additionally, we've got building design standards, parking lot screening, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, on-site employee visitor amenity spaces. And then through the floodplain, we are also providing an easement to Loudoun County Parks and Rec to create a linear park that someone could walk through and commute through in that area. Next slide, that's great. You may have seen that we shared these images for what the design of the data center could look like at the public hearing. I'm pleased to report that we've worked very hard since then to see if we can update those images, and I'll show you those in a moment or two. But next slide. But additionally, and you may have seen these images at the public hearing if you watched, there's a significant, huge berm that is existing on the north side of the floodplain on the south of Evergreen Mills Road. And these are pictures of that. You can drive out there today and go take a look at it. There'll be no snow because we didn't get snow today. It's kind of crazy. But this is a berm that's between 22 and 24 feet high. They are what is notoriously known as the Brambleton Berms. It's got a reputation elsewhere in Loudoun County with significant mature trees that you can see that were planted along and on top of the berm. Next slide. And this berm does such a great job of shielding what's on the south side of the floodplain because of its height, because of the plantings that will grow and mature over time, that you can see that there are power lines that run through the floodplain behind this and very, very much obscured by this berm. So this berm does a great job of shielding and screening whatever is going to happen on the south side of the berm. We think it's really important to underscore this because as we're thinking about where these are, Brambleton, the developer, has done so much to do everything they can to create both spatial separation from a distance perspective by putting the floodplain in between any existing or future residential development on the north side of the floodplain from what is comp plan endorsed and improved or comp plan recommended for the south side of the floodplain. But in addition to this, with no obligation whatsoever to do it, they've also added the significant berm, even though nobody at the county asked them to do it, even though nobody requested that it be done, they did it to create that additional separation. Next slide. Well, let me clear that off. But like I said, we've got some updated images. And so we've been working with designers and with the prospective end user to do everything that we can to ensure that these data centers look as much like an office building as possible. And so what you can see here is you can see that there's a number of areas of glass on the building, which create that feeling that it's an office building. But then also the variety of materials. You can't necessarily see this on this image, but there's some setback and relief provided along the facade. So it's not just one long, straight, flat building. And then obviously you've got some some variation in the height of the building as well across the roof line to create some of that relief. Additionally, and important to note, is keeping with that Brambleton theme, these are very much earth tones. These are not the same sort of colors that you might see elsewhere for data centers in Loudoun County. Next slide. And we asked the designer to take a look at, what might this look like beyond some existing, beyond some existing trees, beyond some planted trees. How would it look in real life? Because sometimes it's hard to take a two-dimensional image and make it into a three-dimensional image. And so this is an artist rendering of what that could look like. Next slide. And because we asked them to pull it together pretty quickly, this is another rendering, not situated. I want to be very clear. This is not pertinent. This is not particular to an actual location on our site, but just gives you a sense for how it might look, from drivers by, passers by. There would be a significant berm in between the road and these buildings. But this gives you, again, just another image of how it might look. This is not specifically cited on our property. I just want to be very, very clear about that. Next slide. There have been also some questions about improving Belmont Ridge Road. And we fully agree that Belmont Ridge Road needs to be improved. Circle back to the beginning of the presentation. I talked about 2 other parcels that are undeveloped and are in for rezoning. It is our plan and expectation that we will be committing to the ultimate widening and ultimate improvement of Belmont Ridge Road with that application. And so we understand and appreciate that Belmont Ridge Road needs to be improved, but it's not typical, and it would be very, it's difficult to justify the cost in connection with an application like this. And so just to underscore how significant this improvement will be, when I talked earlier about the Broad Run floodplain being 800 feet-ish in width in this area, we're going to need a bridge that's going to span an 800-foot section of the Broad Run floodplain. That bridge is so expensive. It's more expensive than the bridge that was constructed on Loudoun County Parkway across the Broad Run floodplain south of Birchwood. And so we're thinking it's in the dozens of millions of dollars, $25–30 million just for that bridge, to say nothing of the actual asphalt that would need to be put into place on the north and south side. But what's really important is people talk about Belmont Ridge Road, completely understand the concerns, is that putting a data center on this property, as opposed to one of those other industrial uses that the county plan calls for, actually reflects a significant capping of any potential traffic impacts for this property. Data centers are notoriously known as a very, very low traffic generator. And it's one of the things that has made it as attractive as it is, that you can put these uses that are high tax generators in a location without impacting transportation and the road network or impacting schools. And so just to drill down on the fact that it is a low traffic generator means that we're not going to significantly impact the intersection of Belmont Ridge Road and Arcola Mills Drive. Now, with regard to that, we still understand that there's improvements that need to be made. And so what you can see from this image, running top to bottom is Belmont Ridge Road. And you can see that we are committing to additional striping and additional turn lanes, et cetera, on Belmont Ridge Road. But more significantly, next slide. More significantly, you can see the improvements to the Arcola Mills Drive, Belmont Ridge Road intersection. And you can see the additional lanes, you can see the additional turn lanes, the through lanes, et cetera. One of the things, that we heard quite a bit about is that this intersection gets quite clogged with somebody trying to turn left, or somebody trying to, because there's not enough room there for somebody to allow somebody to turn left, for example, on Briarfield Lane or whatnot. And it's a very challenging intersection. So what you can see here is that this application will add additional lanes so that one can continue to travel on Arcola Mills Drive, and as well without impacting somebody's ability to turn left on Briarfield or whatnot. Additional lanes will also be provided on Belmont Ridge Road. Next slide. So this is the point of the conversation or the meeting where we've got, that we'll answer some questions. Before we jump into people's questions, and please send
We back? Okay, folks. Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, give us a thumbs up. Can you see us, hear us? Yep, cool. So folks, we'll send out that email address as well. As I mentioned earlier, there is a lengthy question and answer period, probably give or take 45 minutes, after that presentation ended today. So I would recommend you guys watch that. And also, as I mentioned, there's 4 other meetings that are going to be coming up in the near future. So with that, we're going to move forward.
And those future meetings will be very similar to this.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like it's
Right.
going to be a series.
Yeah, correct.
So you don't need to attend all of them.
Yes, in fact, she mentions that Colleen Gillis, the attorney from Cooley, said the presentation won't be changing. So if you've seen it once, barring perhaps answers different questions
Right.
or whatnot, but barring that.
Yeah, and I know the developer is going to kind of clean this one up
Yeah.
a little bit as far as some intro and all that, and put that out either on their site or our site or both.
Yeah, which.
So they'll be available in the near future as well.
So guys, moving forward on the agenda for this evening, we're going to go to the board forum and allow, our board members to have a couple minutes to speak. There's been a lot of information out there, and I'd like, if anybody wants to clear anything up, and then we'll go to resident forum. And then after resident forum is over, we will go to the director discussion internally here. So I will ask any of our board members online if they wish to speak. Ravi, Jordan, Rosemary, or Anand, is anybody? Jordan, go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. So I had obviously concerns for this process. I didn't think from the developers, the videos were sufficient for engagement for the community. I welcome these meetings that they're having. I got to listen to part of it today. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. I will go back as suggested and listen to the rest of it. But to me, this should have happened before. And so I'm happy to have this now. So looking forward. So what was I happy to hear? I was happy to hear about less square footage. I was happy to hear no data center west of Belmont Ridge Road, but I still had concerns. So, and my concerns basically all have one theme of there's no site plan. So, there's no visual analysis of where, how this would look from the road. I know they gave that one sample, but I have no idea where that's from, what road, anything like that. I still have a lot of concern about the height of 60-foot data centers. That just seemed massive to me. The height is an issue, the site plan, the visual analysis, they showed mature trees. Where would that be? Where would mature trees come from? My point is all of this would be addressed by a site plan. If there was a specific site to say, hey, this is where that will be. I know the developers said they're not going to be the ones that would be building this data center per se, so it gives them some flexibility. I understand that, but I think it would be beneficial to have a site plan, and if they need to seek an amendment later, they do that. The other concern I'll just throw out there is the substation. If this is 5 buildings at 2 million square feet, I'm very skeptical that it wouldn't require a separate substation. Those unto themselves are quite ugly. And if you look around at any of the data centers over in Loudoun County Parkway or over near the Metro that's soon to be, they generally have substations close by because they want to be able to have ability to quickly repair anything, because if that substation goes down, they're quickly turning on their generators and burning through diesel fuel. So Supervisor Letourneau brought this up. It sounds like from what I heard, they don't have an answer on that yet. So I would like to hear that as well. So what I would ask, or would like to ask the developer, and I can send this in separate questions, is please put together a site plan, and please let us know about a substation. Again, happy to see some changes that were requested by the Board of Supervisor, but I still have concerns. Thanks.
Anand, Rosemary, and Robbie?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anand.
Yes, yeah. Hello, yeah.
So today I attended the developer session in the afternoon, and after that I have a couple of questions. The way it was presented, and there's some kind of ambiguity in the kind of information provided to us. So what is that? I just try to, instead of going all this thing, I just go by the points. What I found is this. First one is the west side of the land. They're saying they're not build a data center. Then why they're going for rezoning, and what is the purpose of it? Okay. The second one is she told that they're going to build a 4-lane, okay, with this application. But contrarily, she told that without a bridge, they cannot build a road extension, and that application will go along with the residential application which done on the Evergreen Mills Road. So I was not sure about that point. Okay, that's what I want to write that question to the developer tomorrow. Okay. And coming to the what are the profits they're giving now? It's for the county, but what is that as a community we are going to get, with this rezoning and all this? Because the benefits we get as a community, what we're going to get for the residents, just apart from the extension of road and all this going to the county, but I don't see any gain communities getting with this rezoning. Okay. And then my last question is coming to the Parcel 2. What is the intent of the developer of the Parcel 2? What they're going to build there? We have any, because they didn't say anything in this presentation, what they're going to use it for. Yeah, that's a points I have for now, but I have to.
Why don't we have this as part of the open discussion, after the resident input later, but yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Rose, Robbie? Nope. Not saying anything. Robbie's going. Robbie,
I'll hold my comments. I know there's a lot of residents.
Well, that's fine. I was just hoping we'd use this for anything you wanted to say to the residents before they were to speak. But if not, we're gonna have an open discussion after the resident input anyway, so that's fine.
Brian, were you going to talk during the session now? Just to kind of outline from your perspective?
I was going to make a couple of points on some things that have been said, yes. But
Yeah.
As far as discussions on data center, no, that would be later on. I will have that. So
I mean, just in terms of what's happened over the last few weeks, social media and all that. I think, you should have full right to kind of correct the record with.
I was planning on that. Yeah. I'm just gonna
go for it.
Let you guys go first. Sue, do you want to say that?
Just a couple things. One, I think, and I am as guilty as everybody else of getting a lot of emails and not reading them. So we push out a lot of information. It's our responsibility to try to read. Oh, my time's up.
Okay.
And so I think we just, we have to pay attention with what all is sent to us. The second thing is, as Ravi mentioned a little bit, social media, I think we have to temper that, but allow people to say what they want, and so be it. I'm not going to defend or justify comments on social media, but I think folks need to remember that there's a lot going on, and a lot of it is explained in some of the information that gets sent out. And I do appreciate the changes that have been made to this, and to the application, and I do want to talk more about that as we get into the meeting.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Thank you, Sue. So I'll just take 3 minutes. I'm not going to go and speak to every accusation that was said about the board or about me in general. But there were a couple of things that I think need to be cleared up, right? So if you take what Colleen Gillis from the Cooley Group said initially, there's 3 parcels involved in this, not just one. And so my initial intent was to have conversations regarding all 3, both with the developer, with Supervisor Buffington. So there were multiple conversations on what we could possibly get proffered to us in the grand scheme of things. Again, we don't own these properties. And if they stay the way they are, we will never own them. They could have data centers or industrial use put upon them. So my intent was to have conversations with these individuals and with the Brambleton Group to help get us as a community something. That's what I've always tried to do since I have been here on this board. Now, during those conversations, some things were taken out of context, especially with what Supervisor Buffington said was we as a board had no problem with the applications. That is an incorrect statement. He and I have had this conversation. We have cleared the air on that and he's apologized. What the conversations were about how A, again, we can get some proffering. We'll talk about that later, but B, the meetings that we've had subsequent to this meeting on what residents have said. One, there was no input from residents after our annual meeting. After the last meeting, when I brought this up to the board on what was happening with these applications, that's when things started coming up. So I was the one who brought this to the board's attention that these applications were moving forward. My conversations with Tony were as follows. Hey, what happened at the meeting? I said, well, we had a lot of concern from the board members, but we decided as a board not to currently oppose the application. We have rarely, if ever, taken votes to oppose rezoning applications from this board. Rarely. In fact, I can't even remember one in the 10 years I've been here. So we didn't oppose it because we didn't have a full picture of exactly what was happening. However, we also did not support it. I just want to make that clear. There was no vote here that supported or opposed these applications. And furthermore, just to be clear, I, as a resident, as a board member, as the president of this board, can speak with anybody I want about anything that I truly believe will be beneficial to us. However, I can't act on our behalf, and I never have done so. I will never act on our behalf as the single authority. I will always bring that to the board for a vote. So I just want to clear that air because there's a lot out there that says somehow I or some member of this board acted on our own behalf to go ahead and move something forward. So I just wanted to clear that air here. So with that, there's a lot of residents who would like to speak. We will move to the resident forum. I'm going to call them by who signed up first and foremost, and then we'll go to any resident who hasn't signed up to speak, who wishes to speak. I will ask them to raise their hands. We're going to limit, since we have 30-ish, 36.
But I think only 18 signed up.
Yeah, but signed up to speak. We're going to keep everybody to 2 minutes. I'll call it 2 minutes-ish. I'm not going to strictly cut you off. The timer will go off, but I'll let you finish your statement. But I'm going to call people in order of the people who signed up first, and then we will take it from there. So are we good to let people in? They can all turn their microphones on, or how do we do this?
Yeah, yes, we'll be able to turn it on once.
All right. So how would we see the individual person who wishes to speak? So Ravi Pagula, I'm going to call you first. So if you're ready, we're just going to try to figure out how to get you up here. How do we find Ravi? Oh,
It might be easier just to raise hands. Looks like he signed up to speak, but I don't see him out there.
Ravi, are you out there?
Well, he's not gonna
Pagula.
be able to answer.
Oh.
Raise your hand if you're out there.
Yeah,
There he is.
No, that's.
that's somebody there.
Yep.
Let's just raise hands. It's gonna be easier.
You want to just do that?
Yeah,
All right.
because we had 54 people.
All right.
Here's Ravi. Is that Ravi? I don't know. It's
right.
a different last name.
Why don't we,
We'll go with,
you want to just go with the guys who are raising hands?
there you go. Yeah, raise your hand. Go ahead and raise your hand if you want to speak. It's gonna be easier.
There's.
Yeah, so we just turned the microphone on for, I can't read his name from here. My apologies. Abhijita Papuri?
Yeah, hey, this is Ravi Popuri.
Yeah, to you first, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one question, so Jordan Carty just now mentioned that, so there is no power substation to this data center. And if power goes out, so this runs on the diesel engine. So which again, there is a lot of pollution will be coming out of the diesel engine, right? Diesel generators. And there are 3 data centers within a half-mile region to this. And there is a new school that is coming in, LINP Thompson, which is half-mile away from this data center. So, yeah, that's one of the question where there are 3 data centers within half-mile radius to this new school that is coming in. And one more thing is I attended the meeting this afternoon. So in that, one of my neighbor asked a question that why we can't construct this, give permissions for these data centers outside the housing zone. Then the developer lady, she mentioned that no one wants to build a data center in their backyard. So means no one wants to build a data center near to them. So I don't know why she made that statement, but here they are trying to build data center near to our backyard. So, so that's all my questions are. So
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. We will go to three. As you're ready. Shri, are you there? The microphone says it's off. Do we turn his mic on?
I've asked to unmute.
So he has to do that.
He's got to do it. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the questions. I just want to get a feel of where the Brambleton started, the intention. I think right now it's grown like almost like 6,000 homes or so. And this is the last phase of Brambleton and is the final phase. And second question, where it started, like, I don't know, like whether it started with the 2,000 homes or like, and it upgraded the density, things has been changed, single family townhomes to condos, the densities has been changing. And according to the density, are we building the infrastructure or amenities for the community, like such as parks or indoor facilities and clubhouses? We didn't have enough. So what is the needs? And second thing is, what are the proffers they are making to the county and how much they're including those proffers to development of the community and the infrastructure? That Belmont Ridge and the Evergreen, it's clogged right now. And if you're adding anything more, whether it's a data center or even the like housing, it's not going to sustain those. Right now, it's like peak time, you are waiting like 20, 30 minutes. So I'm more concerned the people are moving for the quality of life in Brambleton. I know like they're doing such a wonderful job, but like still we're not like meeting that. So make sure what is promised quality of life we are not achieving. If we want to get out of Ashbourne or get out of these roads, it's taking more and more. And like as the new Silver Line is coming up, there may be more clogging, and Loudoun County Parkway, they're going to start construction. So there is a lot going on, and we are adding more and more to these existing the lifestyle. So my concern is how we can make better on the quality of life. Who is going to answer these questions? Is Brambleton or like the developer or like the HOA? Who is going to take responsibility and answering these questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming out tonight. And to answer your question, a lot of this is just, we're looking for you for public input at this point. I mean, there are some questions that certainly we can't answer. Sorry, we are not the developer, you know, and to answer one of your early questions, I've been in the community almost 20 years and I wasn't first. So I know the community has been planned to be a large community. I don't know how much it's grown from 4,500 to 6,000 homes over the years.
Well, the original rezoning was up over, I think it was closer to 8,500 homes, which included Birchwood. They separated out Birchwood along the way as its own association, but it's still part of that. And there's actually been only a few annexed properties. We refer to the Nickens property. Trent Grove was annexed in. The new Toll Brothers, but these are fairly small,
right.
14 homes on Ryan Road by the daycare center.
Toll Brothers was kind of forced on us.
Yeah, I mean, and all that's really a decision of the developer.
Right,
Really, the
right.
HOA doesn't come into play. You know, we have benefited from additional amenities and additional capital contributions from these units that have come in. So they're coming in at, and the HOA does see some benefit to that. You know, the alternative is probably worse if you look at it, because these properties would develop if you don't annex them in, and they're not part of Brambleton. They're not paying assessment, but they're using all our open amenities anyways, our trails and our tot lots and all that. The only thing we can really keep them out of are our pools.
Okay.
So that's kind of why we want to annex these properties in, but there has been an additional pool along the way, additional tot lots, additional trails that have come along with these annexed properties.
Right. Right.
My biggest concern is basically like we need to go back and revisit where we started and where we are now, and like what, like, the added values can be monetary way a developer can, as county, they're taking plot, like, the kind of proffers and kind of thing. So what we can do, clubhouses or like, amenities, what we can do more for the community, and the tree lines, especially they're cutting all, like if you look at Loudoun County Parkway, they made it like it was all the deforestation. You can see all the animals are coming up. So just make sure we keep the tree lines and the things, not deforestation, bring all the animals into the, like, our communities. So just we need to do like a lot of discussion, and probably like you as a board meet and like have formal discussions might help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri. Appreciate that. The next hand up, Nabeel Rahman.
Hi, can you hear me?
There? We can.
Okay, hey, good evening. So the last 2 weeks, I think, have been hard for the community. It's been a lot to unpack. I was in the county meeting. I was also in the hour-long meeting this morning. To start with, I'm really disappointed that if a lot of us had not spoken up in the county meeting, we wouldn't have been here. There was clearly a communication breakdown. There were a lot of people who didn't know. I don't know what exactly happened. I look back at the Friday flash, I look back at the annual meeting. There was mention of those things, but it was sort of buried in there. There wasn't an overall specific message for this issue. Regardless, I think the HOA needs to play a leadership role, a role in advocating for the residents. I think the county certainly expects it from the tone of the message that we saw. And I think the HOA is the one who can look out for the residents. The developer is going to look to develop, right? And there's always going to be marketing around how good it's going to be. But what are the guardrails that we're going to put in to protect the residents? I'm glad by us showing up in the county meeting, we at least see the density being reduced. We see some of the designs being updated. But I think we expect the HOA to take some of those actions and to stand up to be able to defend the residents and advocate for the residents to put in some of those guardrails. I'm specifically concerned about the traffic impacts. They are significant, 10,000 or so more traffic daily. And per the volumes that I've been looking at from the traffic study, that's significant. That could be almost double what we're seeing on Belmont Ridge. We already have the safety and operational study. We know of major issues already. Now on top of that, we're going to potentially get more noise, more livability, resale issues. We are the ones who are living here. We are facing the traffic every day, all the time. So again, I want to remind us that marketing is one thing, but for us to live here, and see it and live it every day is another thing. I think we can also look back at the history, right? When we said, okay, Belmont Ridge Road was supposed to be a small road, when this Brambleton was originally being developed, and now we see where it's at. There are three entrances to this data center, which are all off of Belmont Ridge Road. I mean, that right there is a significant increase. So again, I would just urge the HOA to play a leadership role, advocate and oppose, or at least voice the concerns of its own residents so that changes can be made in the positive directions for the residents. Please listen to the residents. We are here in one community. We need to work together, and please help understand our concerns, empathize with us, and help us build in those protections. You're in a leadership role. The HOA is being looked at by the county to speak on behalf of the residents. So you are our conduit to representation to those government bodies. So please understand where we're coming from, and help us build in some of those basic guardrails, especially around traffic with Belmont Ridge, that could be significantly impacting our livability. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabeel. Next hand is Monica. Monica, you're there. Hello, Monica. Monica, Billy, going once.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was on mute. I apologize.
No, you're good. We got you.
I could answer one question, quite frankly, that Jordan had earlier about site plans. Site plans are not required until after approval. So ultimately, we do not know exactly what we are going to get. I have some experience in this. I used to work for the county. Specifically, I used to work for Supervisor Matt Letourneau, who frequently butted heads with this developer. So I have some experience in how they operate. Matt and Tony Buffington have worked together on several issues impacting this community. I was involved in the rezoning for the library, so I have an idea how this developer operates. And they have hired a very capable attorney who has represented them well and who quite honestly could sell snow to an Eskimo. Colleen's assertion that data centers are the best use as opposed to mineral extraction, et cetera, this is a nice threat that they like to use, that you could get a data center, or you could get a large kennel operation, or you could get a crematorium. Data centers are the best economic use for the developer. It's not the best use for the residents. And this is not the usual community input process for a legislative application. Before an application would have been before the board for a public hearing, at least one community meeting would have been held to gauge community input. That did not happen. My belief, based on previous dealings with the developer and their attorney, was that this was a deliberate attempt to get this passed under the radar. After all, it was on the consent agenda for the public hearing until residents began to hear about it. So to speak to Brian, what you said, you have rarely opposed applications. That is because the board in the past has had a lot of members on it that were appointed by the developer. Now that this community is getting older and the developer is phasing itself out, this board needs to speak on behalf of us and not the developer. So I would ask you to formally oppose this application, send a letter to Tony and to Chair Randall and oppose this. They also need to be included in these public input meetings so that they can hear from us. I did ask about that on Facebook. I never got a response. My email from Tony's office said that I know how heavily the HOA support carries with supervisors on applications like this. So we do need you to stand up and take a position and oppose this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. For the record, Tony Buffington was invited twice. So just so you know.
Thank you.
Moving forward, next hand up.
Anyone else?
I don't see anyone else's hand up, and since we're going to do it that way, I see Clay Chase was first. So, Clay, is that you?
Can everybody hear me?
I can, yes. Go ahead, sir.
One of the things that Colleen mentioned hit on a subject that I'm very concerned with, and that is the amount of traffic on Belmont Ridge. She mentioned am I getting some echo there? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear echo on our side, yes.
Hold on, let me move.
Yep.
All right, let's.
If you're next to Joanne's PC, it's probably picking it
Yeah,
up.
so that's where I'm getting echo. She's got her computer on. Let's try this. I'll move to a different room.
Yeah, fair enough.
One of the things that Colleen mentioned was that they were going to build a bridge across the creek down there, $30 million, sounding like she's going to make a tremendous contribution to the neighborhood by throwing $30 million into Belmont Ridge. My guess is that the only reason they're doing that is that's the only way they can get those trucks into that site to build this thing. And I really fear that we're going to have 3 or 4 years of heavy duty trucks coming straight down Belmont Ridge over that bridge to that site to build these facilities. I was just looking forward to having North Star close to being finished. There's a final date somewhere in the next couple of years, and I thought that might relieve some of the traffic on Belmont Ridge. And now we're going to have to put up with
the bridge question.
Really heavy duty trucks over the next 2 or 3 years seeing this thing built. And I really dread that because we already have enough traffic on Belmont Ridge. So I think that's going to be a problem. I don't think they can get the trucks in from 50 because of the curvy road that's in the south and southeast side of this facility. So that's my concern. The second thing is 60 feet makes me feel like I'm driving in New York City. So if they get those buildings anywhere near the road, I think we're really going to feel like we're being driving into a canyon when we come in the south side of this development. So I think that's a concern. So I think those are a couple of things sort of watch out for. Because I think if we could relieve some of the traffic on Belmont Ridge in the future and maybe set those facilities back further or whatever, it would help tremendously. I don't know if there's a way to cancel this whole thing completely, but I think those are some of the things we really push for, because I don't think that's going to make this a nicer place to live.
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate that. Sue, you wanted to just.
Clay, I heard Colleen say the 20 to 30 million for the bridge is not part of this application. And when I look at their proffers, I don't see they're proffering to build that bridge.
Well, somebody's got to build it. The county's got to build it, or somebody's got to build it. Because I honestly don't see how they're going to move all those trucks into that neighborhood.
I think it's part of the
Build
second
those
application.
buildings.
Yeah. I thought she
without
said,
being able to
yes.
use Belmont Ridge.
Well, I thought it was part of the second application, but we talked about that earlier, and that's something we need clarification on.
Yeah, if we could ask on that and find out how they're going to do this, maybe relieve some of the pressure on the toll of all of Belmont Ridge Road. Maybe they can find another way to bring those trucks in without going up and down the Belmont Ridge day and night constantly for the next 3 years.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you, Clay. Appreciate it. We're going to Rigo, Leva. Rigo, you there?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Brian and team? How you guys doing? Thank you
Good,
for
man.
having us.
Rigo. Yep.
Good, good. Hey, my couple of concerns here is, yeah, it looks like, Belmont, like, just to repeat some of our residents mentioned earlier, it's going to cause more traffic on Belmont Ridge already for the next couple of years while the construction's happening. Like us, where we live at, there is no berms, fortunately, on Belmont Ridge, and it's going to cause a lot of noise for us for the next couple of years. And then, do you know if they gonna build out the new residential zone at the same time as the data center being built?
Well, so to answer that question, Rigo, no, that zoning has not been actually, it's probably somewhere in the county, but it's not.
County for review, but
Yeah, it hasn't gotten staff comment.
It's probably, we've been told that probably won't be up for vote until maybe the end of this year, early next year. So no, we don't have much information.
So I'm afraid, if they're gonna build the data center, going to build the residential zone at the same time, it's gonna cause even more traffic.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, fair enough, Rigo. We don't know the exact situation of the second application yet, other than it's under review. So
Okay, thanks. And then let me see. And then in the past couple of years, I know you guys noticed or heard that data center were on fire a couple of times the last couple of years. So if you think that if we have a bunch of data center in our neighborhood, some God forbid does get on fire, that smoke will hurt us in our environment, in our community. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about too, because it's been a couple data center fires the last couple of years in our nearby. Also, with this new zone, it's probably gonna delay the North Star as well, which we was hoping to get the North Star opening quicker than later, faster. By adding this new zoning, will probably delay the North Star Road. And then also I believe the home sales will go down a little bit once we have the data center being built and so on, which, of course, who wants to live in a neighborhood that has able to see a data center nearby? And then last thing is, what happened to the barn? I mean, we're building out these new areas, and then we never talk about the barn build. I mean,
Rigo, if you do me a favor, I don't know where in the question and answer from today's session, the developer does address the barn.
The site plan's underway. It has not yet been submitted to the county.
Yeah, so I can't tell you exactly where it is, but if you listen to the last 40 minutes of the, and we sent out the link already?
Yeah, the developer wanted to clean up that.
Okay. We will be sending out the link as soon as we have the clean video, and somewhere in the question and answer session, the barn is addressed at least twice.
Okay.
So yeah, just listen to that.
Appreciate it. That's all I have today, but thank you very much, you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Rigo.
Canal.
Canal? Can already, no, can all, where to go?
Yep.
Kunal,
Thank you
go.
guys for hearing me out. So again, I I also have the same opinions as many of the residents out over here. The primary areas of concerns are traffic. Like if you just imagine, the path from Loudoun County Parkway all the way to Ryan Road, you have like about 6 traffic stops. With this data center development, I just envision that, it's going to take even longer to reach to the workplaces. That's the main concern. It takes like from 267, you just breeze in, but then, that's like a big traffic jam. So that's one area of concern. Traffic would definitely increase in our neighborhood. And data centers can be kept, but they can be kept where they cannot touch the main road. Basically, you can have them on the outskirts of Brambleton, hidden away. That's just my opinion, and I'm raising it out over here. And someone made a good point about the bridge, right? So no matter whether there is a data center or future homes in Brambleton, that bridge would eventually have to be built out. Either it's coming from the county's funds, or I don't know, the developer's funds, but someone would have to expand on the existing Belmont Bridge Road. Is my assumption correct?
So can I speak to that real quick? Because I did get some confirmation back from the developer on that just now. The data parcel 3, the data center parcel will be improving the intersection of Arcola Mills and Belmont Ridge Road, and then down to the bridge. The town's up, not including the bridge, but basically just, I guess, to be south of the bridge. The application does go over, and there's actually drawings of that with the road widening for turning lanes primarily, and that will be addressed there. The next application, or the townhome application, the parcel 1, that will include the proffers that will finish off Belmont Ridge Road in that section to include the bridge and the additional 2 lanes.
And see, that's what I don't understand. A $20 million bridge can be paid for by residential and not the data center? That to me is a little strange, but if they have to do it, yep.
I'll just receive that clarification.
Yeah, let's keep that for the conversation for later. So perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Who is next? Ian?
Joanne.
No, Ian.
Or Ian, sorry.
Ian Ronas. Ian. Are you there?
Yes, thanks. So I'd like to echo many of the prior sentiments. I'd like to make a shout out to Ravi and to Jordan for acting on behalf of the neighborhoods at this south end of Brambleton. Overall, I just want to express my disappointment with the board, and you in particular, Brian.
Yeah,
you doth protest too much. You talked about having conversations with Supervisor Bullington and characterized those as you were representing what we were doing. And now you say you didn't. So I don't think you can have it both ways. I just would ask you and the other board members who have been occasionally dismissive in previous meetings about our concerns in this neighborhood, come and visit the area and observe it. Especially the last meeting, there were questions about, well, you're not even going to see these things. It was clear to me that some board members haven't bothered to travel throughout the neighborhood and go visit the areas in concern. So I'm just asking the board to truly represent all of the different neighborhoods in Brambleton and consider their positions. Yes, you're representing the entirety of Brambleton, but at the same time, this directly affects certain neighborhoods. And I just feel like there's been a lack of concern and consideration about that. The fact that you did or did not approve or confirm the zoning application is immaterial. I think the first reaction should have been, hey, we're going to dive deep into this. And I really do appreciate the Loudoun County supervisors for noticing that residents were protesting last week and set this aside on our behalf. And I think it says a lot about their care about their entire county and these residents in particular. And I don't think the board has acted, the BCA board has acted with the same regard. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Joanne Chase, I think you're next. I'm sorry? Is there somebody else?
No.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody.
Good
Joanne, is that you? Joanne? Hello, Joanne. She's just there?
Just unmute.
What happened?
No,
Can you
click
hear
that
me?
unmute.
Can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
are, Joanne. We got you now. Gotcha. Go ahead, Joanne.
Well, first I wanted to say hi to all the members of this board that I've known for so many years. It seems like we could be family because we've been around for a long time. Also say hi to the new ones and thank you, because I happen to be a member of bunches of different boards, and I understand that we all do this as a volunteer, and we have our families and our jobs, and with the coronavirus and all these horrible things happening across the world, it is more added stress and pressure on the work that you guys are doing. So I wanted to start by thanking you for that. I would respectfully request on my behalf to please send a letter to the Board of Supervisors from our homeowners association opposing this application. And I'm going to explain to you my reasons for that. Even if I am not as knowledgeable of the technicalities associated with the specific application, which I'm not, what I am is a homeowner that has lived here and bought this property since it was a parcel of land. And I was a real estate agent 18 years ago when I purchased a home from Centex Homes, and represented by the wonderful Centex Home salesperson that this was going to be a road right in front of my house. Don't worry, Miss Chase, Mr. Chase. This is going to be a very small road, which you're not going to have to be worried about a lot of traffic, because North Star, the one parallel on the other side, is going to be the one to carry the load of the traffic. Additional to that, we were also represented, you're moving into this amazing community that is going to have a golf course. So I'm just, please take into consideration that I go way back there. I know that Rick Stone was living here. He was a member of our community and also like a family member to all of us. So he understands that that was going on. That was not the developer representing that. That was the builder. I understand that. But with that in mind, that's how we bought this house, with that understanding. What I have seen is that within the past 18 years, the developer, with the best intentions at heart, the best intentions to build schools and parks and communities and bunches of supermarkets and drugstores, with the intent of doing right to our homes, the ones that are right on Belmont Ridge Road, we have been severely negatively affected by the additional traffic, by the pollution. As a matter of fact, my husband became ill with Parkinson's disease while we were living here. We get a lot of dirt, a lot of tar, a lot of pollution and noise and traffic, and it's dangerous here. And from a real estate standpoint, guys, I know you don't live on Belmont Ridge Road, so you cannot understand, because perception is reality. We live right here. The real estate appreciation value of our home. I've been in real estate for 37 years in 3 states. The real estate appreciation value from the homes right on Belmont Ridge to any other house, 6,900 square feet, 3 fireplaces, 2 stairways, 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. I can go on like the Energizer. It's not in tune. So we've been negatively affected by being on the main road. There's not anything you can do about the fact that we ended up on the main road, but I respectfully ask you, please take that into consideration when this application or any other application that is going to overload us with even more traffic comes into your hands. And please, I beg you, take that into consideration. I oppose the application. And with all due respect, thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joanne. Appreciate it. Is there, can you scroll back to the top?
That's it. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak who is still? Oh, somebody just raised their hand somewhere. I see. It says one attendee. Ram Venkat. Ram, go ahead, sir.
Happy New Year to you guys. Thank you for taking the time to schedule this meeting. One thing that stand out to me on this was, from a BCA board standpoint, I think, as a board collectively, we should have done a little bit more due diligence, is what I think from what I understand overall. Outside of us, Board of Supervisors and whatnot, I think BCA board could have done due diligence on our end. No pointing fingers, but that's what I think my comment is. And I think the community would have been appreciative of that. But sorry to see the remarks on social media on specific board members. Unfortunate nature of things. But anyways, thank you for the time. And I like Rick Stone's ringtone on his cell phone.
Hey, Ram, what are you feeding your kids back there, man?
Yeah, my kids are like very, very quiet.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ram.
No.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, Brian. I think Trevor McFarland made a comment in the chat that he was having trouble speaking.
Always having trouble. I was going to go to the chat in a sec. I was just going to see if anybody else wanted to speak, but fair enough. Going once on the people who wish to speak. Going twice. All right, we've closed out the residents input section. Let's go down to the chat real quick and just try to, do you want to just start with the top? Is Karina at the top?
Yeah, this is the first one.
Okay. Well, I don't know about the typical height. I don't know if we can answer that question, but what they put in the proposal was, what did they put?
We got 60 feet. is
60
what we're
feet.
saying.
Yeah.
But there is the option to go higher with additional setback. And I don't think they've ruled that out at this time.
Well, and it should be noted that, for a long time, we saw single-story data centers. And because of the cost of land, now they are 2 stories. So they are going up to 50 to 60 feet to accommodate that.
Fair enough. So we're on Matthew Joseph. I don't know, what does the same explanation apply to parcel one? Parcel one.
That's the explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. Matthew, if you're still out there, if you wouldn't mind, just to Nabeel's point, right? He's right below. Hang on. That's just we were building data centers across the street from your house. It was downplayed. I read the flash. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. One of the conversations we'll be having is certainly about, better communication for sure. Monica, we've already answered her. Trevor.
I mean, both parcel one, I know this will come out in the discussion, but
Yeah.
both parcel one and parcel three can have data centers today. It's just a matter of whether they're 0.40 FAR or 0.6.
To Trevor's point, can you clarify what could be done without any approvals? Could Parcel 2 be developed with data centers on
And
it?
he means parcel one.
Yeah.
The same mistake yeah.
Yeah, yes. To our understanding, the land has already been, all these parcels, in fact, 1 and 3 have already been approved for by rights data centers. The application in front of us on parcel 3 is for a denser data center application and some changes to it. But
And it takes the CR1 zoning.
It takes
turns
that,
that,
right.
which data centers are not allowed on.
Right. So for the western side of parcel 3 and all of parcel 1 as it stands now, can by right, data centers can be built. And by right means it has already been approved for such. They just have to put an application for the type of buildings and so you can
Site plan, yeah.
the site plan and just get it approved without our input. So just to understand that. And a lot on your position. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. Trevor, thank you. Anybody else? Did we miss anything? Maybe one thing to note, the developer session today was not open to residents. The developer session was open for resident input.
But not dialogue. It wasn't
Oh.
back and forth.
Yeah, well,
And I agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Today's?
We could type in questions and they would answer, but it wasn't a back and forth.
What's,
I will echo one thing that I just saw that Ian said is when there's been kind of a conversation that it's almost a trade. If it's a trade, they could have done the applications concurrently and they're not. So that's also a concern of mine is if they want to be in line with the comprehensive plan, Evergreen Mills Parcel 1 would be, you'd be expediting that to be residential now.
sure, fair enough. Anyone else below Ian's question? All right, perfect, folks. We're done with the resident input. So thank you for all who attended and joined. We're still going to have an open session and discussion amongst the board members. There won't be any executive session tonight unless there's some extraordinary reason we need to, but I don't think we will be.
What's the black? Is that
That's the question.
on that window?
Why don't we, hang on one second, folks. All right, perfect. So folks, any discussion? It's open discussion to the board.
So I've got this map up
Yeah,
just
go
for
ahead.
references, so we're all kind of referring to the same things as we start discussions. I know all of these parcels have gone by numerous names, parcel 1, 2, and 3, East and West, Belmont Ridge, or the Evergreen Mills, or even Shreveport, if you go back. The actual application, as Sue pointed out, Brambleton, Shreveport South, when Evergreen Mills was called Shreveport. That's basically when they started, and that's basically that note is down below on here. So I kind of wanted to throw that out there just so we're all hopefully talking same terms when we're referring to these parcels, or use that as a reference. I also threw out the current zoning on this, and kind of where they're going with the proposed zonings. This discussion, I think, really, as the application leads to, is really focused on the gray parcels, parcels 2 and parcels. Actually, I mislabeled that actually.
Yeah.
So this is all parcel 3. Sorry, all of the gray is parcel 3.
Yeah. Parcel 1.
Parcel 2 is actually the one that's kitty corner to the CVS. Sorry, I threw this together quickly today. I've been trying to get all this information together. So I will correct that and get that out there, but all of the gray is parcel 3. Ignore parcel 2. But it is referred to as east versus west, and there's some differences between east and west.
Correct.
But it's not parcel 2. Within these, I've also included some maps I pulled out of the application, which shows really the developable areas on these parcels. The developer spoke to the significant floodplain that's in place, or the stream corridor, or the wetlands, and that's basically the hashed area is the area that's developable. The area to the north of the hash is basically those floodplains and stream. So I've got that there as well, just so
I think that's an important map.
get an understanding, especially on the east side of Belmont Ridge, they spoke to that 800 feet plus the townhomes, plus the Creighton Road, or Evergreen Mills Road.
Right.
But, getting that separation
And the-
between
yeah, and
the current residential.
And the west piece anyway is per my notes from today, and I've got them here somewhere. They're going to take that west.
The changes, yeah.
They're going from, I heard 715 or 350,000 square feet of PDIP with no data center on that piece.
Or monopoles.
Or monopoles.
And just so to clarify, PDIP, some people said we need gyms. A gym is a permitted use in a PDIP zone. Some people say restaurants. A carry-out restaurant is a permitted use. It's just if there's the market for somebody to do it, but it might be office. I will say PDIP also allows a utility substation.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Contractor services with 20% outside storage.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There can be some ugly stuff in PDIP. But
what isn't the park? So it would be over that way, the industrial park.
Yes.
Kind of there. That's
Yeah.
all PDIP,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys ever driven back there outside of Solace Beer.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've been there for some.
Go back to that one you had up, that showed the developable areas.
So this is on
Rick,
two maps.
Yes. One thing I would.
Hang on, Anand, hang on one sec. Go ahead, Sue. Go.
One thing I would like to see is we talk about the visibility of that development envelope from other areas. I would like to see the developer put a cross-section from Evermont Trace through the floodplain, up the hill to Arcola Mills. What does that actually look like, and how much, you know, a 40-foot building up against Arcola Mills, what would that look like? And if there's, it may mean that we request additional native plantings in that floodplain. I don't know. I think there are ways to buffer that, but it's hard to visualize how much it goes up and down and what could be what could happen without them doing a little cross section. Let us know. Let us look at that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is, and I appreciate that. I believe it was Monica stated that that's not required, and I trust that she's correct on that. You know, citing her experience working for Supervisor Letourneau, it may not be required, but it would be extremely helpful. I mean, I'm a visual person. I'm trying to understand if I'm sitting in the back in Evermont Trace and they say, okay, I'm happy to hear that they wouldn't be looking at data centers, but what does that mean? What is going to be over? You know, by right for today, they keep saying by right what it could be. It would be countryside residential. So that part west of Belmont Ridge would be houses on the area.
Excuse me to interrupt. The other part of that presentation indicates that because it's in the LDN contour, there cannot be residential.
It's in the
More
LDN.
zoned.
Well, my understanding, Rosemary, that it's in the LDN 65 now, but it will not be in the LDN 65 with the updated maps.
The updated maps are 60 to 65. I'm not sure.
It's still in the LDN either way.
It is still, yeah, it's a 60 to 65 instead of the 65.
So it cannot be residential, just to clarify.
Anand, you had something earlier.
Yeah. So Ben, coming to this earlier map, right? When what is the developer is gaining by changing the zoning for this west side land part from CR1 to PDIP? Because I see that when they're not building a data center, why they want to go for rezoning for that part?
They're rezoning. They have to rezone it because they can't develop it as currently zoned. It's zoned residential, and residential units are not permitted. I know in the 65, I don't know about the 60 to 65, but so they're rezoning it to other uses that are permitted in PDIP, just not data centers.
Yeah, this rezoning actually brings it in line with the county comprehensive plan.
Right. And Jordan, I know you talked about site plan, but you know, one of the supervisors asked, and I don't remember if it was Buffington or
it was Supervisor Letourneau.
that asked for layouts, and yeah, so we're not the only one asking for a site plan. They may not be required. I don't know.
I'd be curious. I mean, Rosemary, I know you're saying it's not. I was giving the impression from the supervisor meeting that if it was in the 60, the updated map, that residential was allowed. But my point really is, I'd like to, like as Sue's saying, what will the folks see that are in visual range of that space west of Belmont Ridge? I mean, they do it for cell towers. You know, they show these maps of what this would look like. Like, I don't understand why that can't be done.
Well,
We can make a request. They don't know what there is my understanding.
Right.
And they don't know where on the property.
Right.
Which is a little different than when you're going in for cell towers.
Well, but Rick, to your point on the western side, if what you're showing can't be developed, there's not much space then on the western part that could be developed. So they should be able to tell us where 300-something thousand would fall on that western part, that parcel west of Belmont Ridge.
Okay.
Well, and I understand the not knowing, because will it be an office building? Would it be a gym? Would it be, I think there's a lot of flexibility, but maybe just give us some thought. One of the other thing I thought is, could they proffer that the taller buildings would be towards Arcola and one-story buildings more towards the floodplain, so that, again, it buffered, but I think a cross-section would certainly help.
Okay, one more point I see, right? Is there extending the road only on the Belmont side or in other sides too? Because now if you see, if they extend only at the Belmont side and this with this rezoning, that means other side is always a 2-lane. So that means again traffic will be there, same thing, right? Congested. It will be halted on Belmont Ridge Road. Now, as of today, we are seeing same thing. It is started from signal to fire station. The cars will be stopped when you have a signal in the peak time.
Yeah, no, the proffers are specific to the intersection of Belmont Ridge Road and Arcola Mills.
So I don't see how it will add any value for us when it is.
Well, the turning lanes would absolutely add a value.
Yeah, turning.
I mean, if
It's turning already. We have same currently, right? Turning is there.
The developer could do those turn lanes right now if they wanted to.
Just to clarify, Jordan, I just want to be clear. I don't know the answer of the new LDA.
Please.
So-
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. I'll reach out to the county and ask.
I wanted to jump in here. I know we're already like looking kind of like down into the weeds, but just zooming out a little bit. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Just zooming out a little bit as the board, right? Knowing that management's got day-to-day stuff, our board duties, as I fully understand it, are really at the executive level and to think strategically, right? Both in things that are impacting us, as well as we as the board can impact strategically. So I truly appreciate the details and kind of some of the planning as we're going through this, but I would submit that we need to have some kind of conceptual framework to think about that. And we have to do that by both thinking backwards and thinking forwards, right? So how did we get here and where are we going? And I think some of our residents spoke to some of these points, but this is kind of how I see it. You know, I had a lot of trouble sleeping after our last board meeting about a week and a half ago. You know, it was only like some 10 days ago, because I thought I didn't do enough to do right by our residents. I was like, was I not persuasive enough? Was I not, speaking facts clearly for the need for bold leadership and decisive action? And it really, to me, it comes down to 4 things as we look at this. And some of our residents have spoken to these points, particularly Nabeel, Ian, Monica, and Joanne. But just recapping some of these things, because Rick, you went over this, but we didn't go into kind of some of the critical points where it comes to how we engage with our residents, how we make decisions as a board, how we interact with external groups, external people, right? But the bottom line is we failed to act as a board to oppose or support, just exactly like what Brian said, right? It was a 3-4 vote, and we didn't go either way. Like, a few motions were put up there and they were defeated to either delay, to submit a letter, and we didn't make an action. In those cases, no action is also an action, right? Like, that is also a decision. And we have to be cognizant of that. In some cases, my understanding, from the last board is some of the dissenting members thought we could have more leverage by not opposing the application, looking to get something from the developer, whether that's construction of our BCA facility that's supposed to be in the Evermont Trace area, or get some other benefit, some trade-off, maybe the construction of a road up to North Star, or use it as some kind of leverage. That is one way to think of it, and maybe that is still valid. But I would submit that, based on the responses of our residents, that, Brambleton is not for sale, right? Like, even if we got $2 million for construction of a BCA facility, what is that, right? That's a drop in the bucket. It's 12% of our annual budget. It's not completely insignificant. But the impact
12% is pretty significant, probably. So,
sorry, Brian, I'm still making my comment here. Give me a second. Let me just finish the thought. I just said, while that's not insignificant, the impact of failing to engage could be more significant, right? And I think this is where it goes to a few of the other points, right? So leadership being the first and foremost of where we can, take some action here. Strategy is the next one, right? And this is something that I'd proposed. I think several of the board members all agree that we need to have a strategy going forward. in at least a multi-year strategic plan of the best uses of our resources in an inclusive manner with all our residents' input, right? Some folks are like, well, is it 6,000 homes, 8,000 homes, whatever those numbers are. And then, the silver line, all of these things are happening around us, right? So how do we zoom out and say like, okay, this is who we are. This is what we value. This is how we're going to move forward and be proactive. Because all that I'm seeing here is all these things that are, I've only been on the board some 8 weeks, right? But it's very reactive, right? It's like, well, oh, there's a meeting. It's tonight. Who's going to speak to it? Oh, what are we going to say, right? And we're not forward thinking enough as we could be, right? So I think that's where we can come to the board and say like, yes, there are concerns here. Let's address them. Let's think strategically about this in this specific instance, and then zooming out a little bit, what do we do in the next few months, in the next few years, as other things are going to be happening around us, as well as things that we can affect as well. And the last part comes to representation, right? And that is we as a board engaging with our residents, as well as engaging with external, whether that's the Board of Supervisors, whether that's with the developer. I think it's something that needs to be done. I think in all 2 other of the board meetings that I've been to have mentioned such, the need to develop relationships, the need to provide both an exchange of perspectives, right? Which we're starting to get now, but that's not because of actions we've done as the board. Those are actions that I'm really proud of the residents of Brambleton for standing up and voicing their concerns, which is great. But I think, just as Monica said, the board can be speaking on behalf with that resident input. And that goes into 2 other issues as it regards to representation, which I think are really critical. And I ask my colleagues to note. That is the need to correct the record, right? So things will be said that are just completely false. Accusations are made, things that are, and as we know in social media, misinformation, disinformation spreads faster than the facts. But this is 2022. We can't let that stand. We cannot be just like, well, I'm just not going to respond and hope that things go away. Like it just feeds on itself, right? So because people are human and they have emotions and they're like, well, that's not right. Well, I don't agree with this. Well, I think that's where we have to be able to step in. And there are multiple ways to do this. I'm not saying we respond to every single post that's made on Facebook and we just spend our lives as volunteers doing that. But what I am saying is that, hey, these were the facts of events that happened and we're correcting the record. And maybe it's Brian posting a video representing the board saying like, just to let you guys know, this is what happened. There's some things out there that's not true. Here's the truth. And this is kind of how we as the board are leading. We've taken your input and we're going to move things forward. That could be a video, that could be an email, it could be something on our website. But there is a need to correct the record. I think Rosemary's always done a really good job too, as we've tried to say, well, the developer's doing this. She's like, well, no, actually, here's what the developer's authorized to do and et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate that. And I think Sue is also really good at getting down into the details and saying, well, this is authorized here and this is authorized there. And those are technical things that I just don't know. So I really appreciate my colleagues for providing that input. Last point as it comes to representation, and then I'm in. And that is, as we develop these relationships with key personnel in offices, I think we need to do it in pairs as members of the board. And, whether that's engagement with the developer, with the Board of Supervisors, with any other external agencies. And I say that for 2 main reasons. 1, memories are faulty. And 3, we can back each other up, right? Like, it's like, well, here are the things that we talk to the board and we talk to the residents. These are the things that we said we're going to do and speak on behalf of. And, we can write each other notes, like one person's thinking and talking, the other person's writing stuff down. So that's where I see those things strategically. And I'll leave it at there and we can move forward.
I just want to add one thing to that comment. Anytime we've supported anything at the county level, it comes in writing from the community, from the association. And Tony knows that. I mean, Tony came up through our system, he was a committee member, he was a board member. So, I think that comment, well, yes, it may be an individual, if it was made or whatever comment was made, not only Tony, but the county is familiar with getting letters from us when we support or have an issue with stuff, be it the Belmont Ridge Road, we followed up with in writing. I mean, those things, that's just the formal way to handle it. So,
I mean, to your point, Rick, that same meeting there on that agenda was about the cell tower, and we sent a formal letter to them. So I agree with you. I'm not sure why Tony was confused about that. But yeah, and I agree that there's definitely kind of postmortems of what we could do better. There's stuff that I could do better. I thought about it myself. I guess one thing I'm thinking about right now is the next meeting is November or mid-February. And so it's the combination of looking back, but also being proactive to have this, be prepared for this next meeting, any conversations we have. So I'm attempting to balance that. But I think when there's the rezoning for the space on Evergreen Mills or the space over by CVS, I want to be clear to the developer. I mean, I've been on the board for 2 years. I had one opportunity to speak with Steve and Colleen on a video chat way long ago. Now, it's been COVID, so things were completely different for a long time. But I think it would be beneficial if we had more open conversation with the developer about these rezonings. I agree, if it's 10 houses here or there in Ryan Road, that's a materially different thing than what's going on here or what's going on CVS or Evergreen Mills. And I think we should have more conversation with Tony, because he obviously, Brian said he apologized. He misrepresented something, which if that happens, that's quite bad for us with the Board of Supervisors. So I think that what we could do, there is a lot we could do differently, but I'm somewhat being defensive of what are we doing for this next few weeks before the next meeting.
Well, and I do, Jordan, I hear you, and the communication with the developer, but going back, Robbie, to what you said about, we talk about, well, what are we going to say tonight at meeting? I take offense to that. I think we've talked about a couple of things. We've talked about the redistricting. We've talked about where we should be on that. We've spoken before the board. We're getting involved with that process in the early process. The rezoning, the residential on Evergreen Mill, we've tried to pull up the application. We've tried to, both Rick and Brian have tried to get the developer to come in and talk to us about the upcoming rezonings, both parcels 1 and 2 or 3 and whatever they are. The one, the Shreve.
1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
This one did come up on us. I will say unexpectedly. I went back and looked at the videos again that were from 2020 and 2021. And certainly for me, if Colleen had said 3.7 million square feet of data center, I probably would have paid a whole lot more attention. I know she said data center and they talked about PDIP, but 3 million would have gotten a whole lot more people's attention, and it didn't. So I take offense that we wait until the night before to decide what we speak. I don't do that. I think.
No, Sue, that's not, I mean, if you're taking offense, you're missing the point, because Jordan and I brought this up at the last meeting.
Listen,
in that, hey, let's look at the picture here. They're building a 3.7 million square facility.
Right.
Brian, I'm still talking
Now-
here. Can you wait a second?
Robbie, you just
Right,
cut
like,
Sue
no.
off. You just cut Sue off. Let Sue finish. How about that? I've heard you. Let Sue finish.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I understand that there were a lot of issues brought up in terms of this application that may feel like it was last minute, which is why I voted to not oppose, because I wasn't prepared. None of us had even looked at the application. So anyway, moving on. I think we need to, as Jordan said, we have something that we have to, there is an application that it will go before the board on February 15th. And we have time between now and then to make our case known, to make sure we're knowledgeable about where it should be and how it affects the community. So I think there's a lot to do, but we've started that process.
Okay, to to add to this point, right? What I see that when we are not sure about something, right, we should not even support it, right? That's what we should have. That's the first step we should do.
Absolutely. I didn't support
right?
it.
Yeah, that's what you should have supported the motion to say, put a request to understand the application and all that, which not happened.
No, don't agree. I
Okay,
couldn't.
keep it
Okay, sorry,
aside.
sorry.
Can I urge us as a board to, again, we have a time constraint here to February 15th. That we can do a look back after, postmortem, whatever you want to say, but we have a time constraint. I think what I heard today was better than what I saw at the Board of Supervisors. I'm curious to hear what folks are thinking. I mean, Supervisor Letourneau said at the meeting, I think ultimately, I'm paraphrasing, so I'm not quoting. Ultimately, this will be a data center because of the comprehensive plan, but it won't be what you're asking for right now, which I think is probably true and even shown today. I saw a comment that Ian threw up that the Western parcel be left alone. Those are the kinds of things that we have to have a conversation. Hey, is that something that we can have a conversation about? Because if this is at the end of the runway and this ends up being a data center, I think it's better that it's half the size that it was. I think it's better that there is no data center on that western side. But there's other, to me, I look at this as a conversation and negotiation with the developer, and I'm trying to see what else are folks thinking on the board right now.
Well, I've got two, if I can say, I have two, and I know it's getting into the weeds, but it's part of the application. I have concerns. They talk about the Brambleton Berms. I'd like to see those proffered along the east side. And I think there needs to be a conversation about construction traffic. Is it all going to come through Brambleton down Belmont Ridge Road? Can we have it come down Arcola from Loudoun County Parkway? I don't know. I just would assume not see that traffic, construction traffic come down Belmont Ridge Road.
I would just throw out there a couple of points since I've been sitting back waiting. Just with regard to the application, I think, as I've said with other applications and other times, we should be very prescriptive in what we ask for, because I do believe that, and I have believed it for a couple of years now, and I apologize to people out there who weren't aware of all this stuff that was happening, but it has been somewhat public record that these will eventually be data centers. And so if we are prescriptive in what we ask for, we can leverage our position here on these boards to get these things, berms, traffic diversion, something, but we can't stop it. So the way we went about this gave people, I believe wrongly, that we could stop this application from happening because we somehow put out misinformation through Facebook. And I want to apologize to all those folks who didn't know about these things before, who got this half information, and here we are today, because I think there was a lot of half information that was put out there. So if we're prescriptive, I think we can do two things. We can get what would satisfy a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, not only here on the board, but the public. And then B, which was my bigger concern to start this whole process anyway, was to get something proffered on the next application to us for our maintenance and BCA facility. And if we kind of play, and I hate to call it the game properly, but indeed it is, we can get something out of this that I think would benefit not only us here on the board, but the entire Brambleton community. Because the bigger hole we have is not if a data center is going to go at the southern end, it's going to go. It's if we get the facilities we need to maintain the beauty of this community that we've all moved into. And that's my biggest concern, has been from the get-go. And that's why I brought it up at the last meeting. I would take one point to Ravi, and although I agree with certain points you make, Ravi, but as far as us looking strategically around, we have for years. If us representing people in this community, we have for years. If us talking about better communication with the community, we have for years. And I'm open to anything and everything. We've tried everything in the past. I would love more people to get involved, but it just doesn't happen. And I would also say that we are elected, because this is a democratic republic, not a democracy, but a democratic republic. We are elected to represent the folks here in this community. And that's what we should be doing. And we are doing that, I believe, here. A lot of folks out there aren't going to agree with my vote. They're never going to, and that's fine. But we do represent these folks. So at times, having continual public input sessions, I appreciate this one, but just around everything, That's not what we're here for. We're here to represent the people, and I will leave it at that.
Hey, so the data center on the east side was 3.7 million? And they took it down to what?
Yeah, I got
It wasn't, well, they
It was like
proffered out the data center.
700,000 down to like
Yeah.
350,000, wasn't it?
On the east
Oh,
side.
seven.
So it was
Like
they're down to
4 million to 2 million.
4 to 2.
4 to 2.
That was 3.7 on that side. Okay, so if they took it
I
from
got 4.
3, whatever it was, down to 2,
Yep.
and the west side to 300, what if we said, do 3 point, not 3 point, whatever, take the square footage off the west side and put it on the east side? Say, put all your square footage over
That-
there and leave the
Yeah.
west side open.
And that's, again, I'm going to pushback, Ryan. You were saying you think that people thought that we're going to say this wasn't going to happen. I never thought this wasn't going to happen. I never said this wasn't going to happen. You said it was a done deal that night. It didn't happen that night. So we got half the density already from agreement today. To me, that shows that pushing back works. And I think what Sue's saying is exactly what we need to do. And that's what I want to do. So to assume that because people pushed back was a mistake, I can't imagine how you would get that result or that thought from what just happened.
Okay, matter of opinion, but fair enough. Yeah.
So,
Okay, I mean, I
Saturday.
think Sue has some valid points here and that we should kind of discuss this out because in the end, right, we are time limited. We need to make a decision. So I appreciate everybody's comments on my comments. I know there's points you agreed with, some points you disagreed with. But I think as it comes to a few of the things, and there's some things that are coming in the chat as well. I agree with the point of looking to what extent we can move stuff all to the east. I think that's a great idea. Also to point that Sue said about the berms, where will they be? Can we see what that's going to look like? And the third point being the cross-sectional thing that both Jordan and Sue have spoken to. If we can capture that in a letter saying that, hey, here are our concerns, and maybe there's a few other ones that we can come up with and we can have a running tally this night of things that we can speak on behalf of our residents and the board, the community as a whole, saying, these are the things that we're concerned about. Can you take a look at them?
So maybe it's 2 million plus 300. Maybe we try to feed the
Combine
dogs.
the two.
2.5 million all on the east side and leave the west side alone. And then you don't have to do the cross section, do the berm. I mean,
sorry to say as per the today's meeting, right? She was very clear that they're not going to build any data center towards west side. So there's no need to ask anything there, right?
Well,
no, but that's where Sue was saying that they might build other things that might be unsightly under the PDIP, right?
Right.
Is that what you're saying, Sue? What could those?
So let's take it off take it off the west side and put it all on the eastern side.
No, west side they're not putting anything, but what is going to come on the west side? That's what my concern too, because what is that going to come? Can we negotiate something where it won't be any kind of a problematic to the community, right? Now, like right across our Montrez, it is right behind our Montrez, that west side.
Well, that's what we're trying to say. If we can get them to agree to leave that open, undeveloped.
Don't do anything on that side.
Yeah.
All right.
We can ask.
Sure.
They have 2.3 million, let's say 2.5 all on the west side.
Yeah.
I mean, east side, not west side, east side.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And why not ask?
We can certainly ask for anything, but
I know.
I go back to my statement earlier. I think we should be prescriptive in the things that we think we can get done, not the.
Well, I think that's pretty prescriptive. It's pretty
Yeah,
detailed.
why, Brad, I don't understand that. That is prescriptive. To say leave that open is prescriptive.
It's several acres of land. You just think the developer is going to leave open in this area.
Well, I think if it gives them 500,000 more square feet of data center that they can sell at a pretty high price, it might.
Yeah, it's not cheap land that they're selling.
So we are saying, and I'm just trying to paraphrase this. They went down to 2 million square feet of data center on the western side. Eastern side. Now we got to mix up. But now we're saying, oh, hey, but we're willing to trade the western portion of this for 3 million.
Well,
square feet. 2.5.
I get it. I get it. I'm just saying.
So they brought down their number and said, I think it's 2 million on the east side.
Right.
I wrote
Yeah.
2 million.
Yeah, it is
and
2 million. I
So
got
they
you.
were going to develop totally 2.3 million square feet
Right.
with the 300,000 being on the west. Let's take the west out and give them an additional 500. So we're giving them a little bonus point if they leave the west alone and put it all in the east.
And it's certainly data center space is more valuable than just.
Then a
I
warehouse.
Warehouse.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I-
yeah. So,
Guys, we can ask for anything.
and it,
I
you know
don't.
what that also does? It eliminates the need for them to have to improve our Arcola Mills to the west. They don't have to do that. Well, maybe they might want to. Yeah, they might have to still.
Fair enough. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think
mean-
that's an excellent point.
So you're saying to ask them to drop the rezoning and keep it CR1.
Yeah, I guess in essence, right.
I'm asking them to keep it open space, not to make it CR1. I'm asking them to make it open space.
Well,
Yeah,
they would have to proffer it as such, because if they rezoned it and then they sold it, then we're just back here at some other point.
well, no, proffers run with the land, not with the owner.
Yeah,
So if they.
I got a,
But yes, I mean, we got to get that
Yeah,
line.
right.
as we're moving forward this, I just have a procedural question, and that is, as we make motions with Pat not being on the board, how does that work? Can we still?
3-3 if it comes out to that, unfortunately. So it's just the 6 of us are here to vote. We have quorum. So
Let's come, so it's at 6-0, we all agree on it.
just Robbie, for the procedural question, yes, as long as we have made quorum, the vote stands at quorum. If it's 3-1 or 4-0, as long as we're at quorum.
And does it, I mean, I guess I'm specifically talking about the developer representation. So like if, you know what I mean?
She's here, she's not,
Just one is
Yeah.
sufficient. Okay.
Well, actually, technically speaking, if for some reason, if Pat and Rose were not here, that's just the way it is. We hold a meeting, it's 5-0, we have quorum. So it has nothing to do with a developer
Okay.
Board
representative.
members,
being
they're all board
present.
members.
Yeah, it's just 5 board members being present.
Nabeel said something about all entrances are not on Belmont Ridge. That's the only place they can be because they don't have enough frontage to do anything else but
I think the
Belmont.
minimum requirement would be 300 feet.
Yeah, that's.
Before you
too
can put
close.
in an
Yeah,
intersection
yeah,
close to
you would not
Belmont.
be able to do that.
All right, so folks, my recommendation for this evening is not to make any, I'm not going to tell anybody not to make a motion, but I don't think we should vote on anything until we get, a little bit further input. I think we should push some of this stuff that we've talked about today to the developer, see if they want to
Yeah,
change some of this
I
stuff.
would vote.
That's what I think you're
not
moving on.
Move.
Some of these
Move
ideas.
that?
Yeah, just throwing out some, like all the residents have done so far is, okay, here's some of our thoughts, some things that we think would help the application and help get support. I think there's, again, I would ask questions about construction traffic. Is there a way? And I don't know how you're gonna do that. I don't know. I just worry about all that traffic coming down.
You don't have to necessarily come up Arcola Mills. You could come down.
Or at least
Loudoun
no further
County,
north
Yeah,
than
then Evergreen Mills.
Evergreen Mills. Yeah.
Okay, to add to it, Brad, can we add this as per last meeting, right? What we get for any support for the facility, or you're saying in the last meeting, right? What we can get for the facility building.
No, I apologize, but I did not get what you just said. So
No, in last meeting we discussed, right? You said that we might get some help from the developer for building the facility. Right? Let me just
read
that also in this one. What are we discussing with Westland, keeping it open, and then getting the benefit to the community by getting that any help, what else they can do for the building that facility itself.
Yeah, let me just be clear. So my conversation, as I addressed you guys in the last meeting with them, was over the next application on what we can get proffered in it. Got an email that I shared with you guys that suggested, again, no money, no specifics, but something that was also copied to Supervisor Buffington, that per Supervisor Buffington would play an effect on that next application that goes through, that with that promise to help us financially in some way, shape, or form with our maintenance and BCA facility, that would reflect on their application there. So I did not get any kind of concession, promise anything on any concession on this application. But now that the application's been stalled a little bit, yeah, perhaps we can ask, but I was hopefully negotiating in good faith. You know, they were willing to come in front of the board, that the Brambleton group, to offer what they could in helping us with our maintenance facility. But again, we're not there yet. So
I would just suggest if they're going to do that, they should put it in writing.
well, I do have a letter from them, an email from them that the Supervisor Buffington was copied onto, that they would, with support of that, once we come to some agreement, that would be part of their next application. And
No,
they understand.
I don't put it in writing now, the dollar amount. I don't see why wait.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. We're trying. I'm trying.
All right, so what are we doing right now? We're coming up with a list, but we're not voting on things.
Well, you guys can make a motion that we send a list of questions and concerns about the application as we heard it to the developer for consideration. I mean, again, that would be, unless somebody correct me, that would be about as far as we can go with that, right?
I would suggest that, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to make a motion, then we can put down, you know, again, back to what I said, we should be somewhat prescriptive and not have a whole like book of things, but a couple of things that are our biggest concerns, and maybe we can make it happen.
Then
Brian, one comment is there in the chat from Nabeel that they have some impact for BRR residents.
We already addressed that.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion then that we send a letter to the developer saying, based on our community meeting, we heard issues and we'd like them to address the following. And I have 4 things on there. One is a typical layout on the east. It's data center, we should ask. That we would like to, we'd rather see 2.5 million total square feet on the east side and 0 square footage on the west. And maybe take that out of rezoning. That saves the money if they don't have to pay for the rezoning. I don't really care if it's open or CR1, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
We asked them to proffer the Brambleton-like berms on the east side all along Belmont Ridge Road.
East side along Belmont Ridge.
And then we asked them to mitigate traffic by not having any construction traffic, go north of Evergreen Mill on Belmont Ridge Road. So that they have to go Loudon Park, County Parkway to Evergreen Mill or to Arcola.
We can ask them to address those concerns for sure. Is there anybody else out there heard something or want something else on this letter?
Yeah, right.
So we have a motion for sending this letter to the Brambleton group with those 4 pieces and anything else, Jordan? Yeah.
So my question is, for the parcel west of Belmont Ridge, for that to be undeveloped, why wouldn't we just ask them to proffer that to the BCA?
For us to have ownership?
You just have it be open land.
Well,
you mean proffer it to the BCA or proffer it with 0 square footage, or what do you, I'm not sure.
Proffer it to BCA.
How about proffer it to us and we can build our maintenance facility on it?
Oh, I don't know if we want that land. Do you want that land?
I don't know that I want that
I
land.
bet you Evermont Trace people wouldn't mind us out of their neighborhood.
It would solve the Evermont Trace issue.
And you want your office in the back of a neighborhood. I mean.
Yeah, I guess we could, yeah.
Well, either way, I mean, you could have that conversation, but why not just proffer
Well,
it to us?
wait, then can it be CR1 and we build?
No.
You would
It
have
can't
to.
be EIP.
If it's PDIP,
What you're going for.
Well, that's interesting.
if we're going to ask for the world, why don't we ask for that? And then we can sell the Evermont Trace property.
Then it's gonna get your landscape back in there.
I know, well, it solves one problem, creates another. I realize, but at least this is.
Maybe we
money
can use
us.
for any recreational purpose. If we get that profit, we can build some recreational facility later.
Well,
in the long
so
term.
maybe west.
So honestly, let's play that out a second. Take what if we had to sell Evermont Trace or whatever. Well, let's just assume we don't have that property for right now. Why don't we ask them in this application to proffer us something right there for our building use?
On the
west
West
side. Yeah.
dedicated 2 acre.
If they're going to be building data or they're going to be building stuff there anyway, why don't we?
Buildable.
So you mean, don't say, don't do anything, just let us put ours over there with them?
I don't agree with that. I would
Yeah,
say don't do anything and give us.
Dedicate to us a 5-acre parcel. Or
I
do you want the
agree.
whole thing? They're not gonna give us.
But where's the 5-acre parcel?
So I measured earlier, I think it's only about 7 acres that's buildable there.
I wondered how
Once you
big.
take out all that floodplain,
It's gotta be bigger. That was a question I wanted to know is how big is that?
When she put that, the blue floodplain over, it didn't look that large.
No, I know, it doesn't look, well, I have a picture, but I can't, I know, yeah.
That's not the air conditioning just turned on or something. Cold all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Oh, well, maybe. All right, well,
I can't tell.
let's come to some conclusion on what we're asking for in that piece of land.
So can I just jump
Yeah,
in?
absolutely. Go, Rose.
So we heard a lot about the overall traffic counts,
Yeah.
not just the construction traffic. So I
Right.
think we do need to get some clarity about what that is. And I believe the developer did indicate that they would be willing to have their traffic person. So I think that's
Yeah.
a question we need to ask and get clarity for residents. In the chat, I believe it's Nabeel who is suggesting that the board ask for the developer to extend berms all the way up Belmont Ridge Road. And I believe, Nabeel, correct me if I'm wrong, you're speaking to the fact that not all of Belmont has berming, and you're looking for that to be, that's an ask for you for consideration of support for this application. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what he's asking for.
Yes, yeah, I think that's what Nabil wants. That's
So
what he's
what what area are you talking?
He's talking about the place.
He's
where
talking
we
about
did
the entirety
Or we
of
just put all
Belmont
the-
Ridge Road.
I think he's just talking that's where we just put all the landscaping
We
in.
can't put berms in there. We have to take out the trees.
I mean, you gotta take out the existing trees, you have to take out the existing irrigation, you got, I mean.
I'm just clarifying the ask.
I know.
I'm not saying we should support it.
I'd like to bring it back to this application if we can, because that's what this.
But he's saying we should be asking for that
I
to
understand.
support this. So I just want to make sure we have that out there as a discussion. This has been raised. And then the
Understood.
other thing that
Understood.
was addressed was the legacy elementary issue.
Yeah.
That I think he's also saying. And again, I think as a board, we need to consider those things raised by the resident.
Yeah, that's where I think safety that this thing was done by county and all that.
That's why
That's
why the county's doing the safety study now for all those
Okay.
reasons.
I think we're,
I just want
I
to
think
make
we're going to
sure
get out of
we
scope.
all have considered that.
I also think those two issues may be better addressed during the residential rezoning, since those residents are added to our community. And so there's a bigger impact there. I don't know if I think it's tied to this.
I mean, data centers are known for next to zero traffic.
After construction
So
traffic, but it's just.
to make that argument.
I do think, to Rose's point on the traffic, who was the individual that they offered up, Rose?
Oh, it's their
Internal.
We had a civil engineer or something, right?
yeah, they have a
engineer.
they have a traffic,
Yeah.
Wells and Associates.
We should ask for that.
Well, they're doing that, yeah.
What was the
They
question?
made that
What
commitment.
was it?
Well, we should
What's the
put it in.
question asked about that they were going to follow up with? Does anybody?
Because I guess the numbers in the application says there could be up to 10,000 trips.
Right.
Generated daily trips.
Yeah.
So I guess
That may
what
be
we're
with it
asking for
too.
is
I mean, because
clarity
if
of
you
that.
got 3,700 square feet to the west.
That's much higher
that's not
traffic
the data center.
generations
So the
than,
data,
right.
so you'll have more traffic coming out of the west.
Yes.
If that's at 3,700 or 37,000 feet. than
So-
you would.
So if we changed it to 2.5 million of all data center, it's not going to be 10,000 vehicle trips. Yeah, okay.
I say we simply put, we're concerned about the vehicle trips proposed.
Mhm.
And we'd like.
Or she was going to
Well,
answer.
that's going to reiterate. I think they've already committed to
Yeah.
getting those. numbers.
I know, but I
I'm not
think,
sure what that was.
I think that would, in my opinion.
Practically
again, it
every
can't be
person in this,
reiterated.
practically every resident in this meeting spoke about their concern for traffic. So I think we have to include that
Yeah.
in some way.
I agree. I agree with that.
That support's doing nothing or minimal to the west.
All right, so Sue, as our scribe here.
Well, I don't know. I'm still confused on the traffic count. One is the traffic count updates, but then what, I forget what I know Colleen said she'd get someone on it but I don't remember specifically. Was it just how the traffic counts?
Who's going to get an answer to that question
I know, but what?
of why? Because she couldn't explain the question. She couldn't explain why it was as high as 10,000.
Okay.
So she's
Okay.
going to have.
And it's in the
traffic engineer
application, if I
expand
understand.
on that or basically provide a response.
Yep.
And we
And
can
that's-
always
I think
double check the video.
We're just reiterating that
That's the
ask.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So our
We're just
ask,
seeking clarity.
Yes.
I see 6 bullets that Sue has. Sue, do you want to?
And Robbie, it's clarity that Colleen didn't have at the meeting. So,
Right,
so
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then so the bullet is that I've written down 2.5 million square feet, all on the east side.
Consider, right.
Yeah, berms along the Brambleton-like berms all along the east side of Belmont Ridge Road. Address the construction traffic restrictions so that it doesn't go up through the community. Ask for a typical layout. I think that's hard to do on the west, what they were proposing, but it's easier to do for data centers.
Sounds like they already have sort of
Yep.
plan thought out here. But yeah,
So,
I think that's a fair ask. I don't know if we're going to get one on.
Ask for 5 acres dedicated to the HOA for a maintenance facility on the west side.
Well, that's all they got is.
dream big, right?
It was 5 acres and no other construction on the west side, right?
Yeah, it was no square footage except for our maintenance.
Our
facility.
maintenance facility.
Well, at that point, they'll want us to give the whole thing because I think it's 27 acres and 2/3 of it's in the floodplain anyways. So
We could put a field up there. Oh, forget about that. Yeah,
Let's-
okay. And then the other one was the traffic count update and the details from the traffic consultant.
You know, that might not be an ask. That might just be.
Yeah, I remember you told, except if if they're changing the square footage from the 3.7 to 2.5, they might have to redo their traffic study or just update it.
Yeah. Okay.
and part of the letter should state, acknowledge some of the areas that they have.
Yeah, that they've taken it, right.
Taken action to reduce the overall FAR, to impact the design, more office-like, office look to the design, to the,
Who, do you have that? Can you put this letter together?
I'll do initial draft and flip it.
Is there anything?
Well, I made a motion.
I was just gonna,
Well, I was.
sorry, just while we're on the list, Rick, you remember at the last meeting, and I know it's been super quick, but I thought you were also gonna have like other asks. Is there anything that we're missing that we should be including?
Yeah, I mean, that was more directed to the Evermont Trace parcel and what we're doing with that facility there. I've had some initial discussions with the developer, but nothing firm. I wanted to be honest with you, they asked me that question today and I told them I'd be back in touch with them because that was something that basically the board had asked me to pull together. So I didn't want to just throw something out there off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So that still needs it. Yeah, I've been, ever since
Well,
that
that's
board meeting, I dove into this stuff and it's, basically sucked my time.
What about the road back there connecting to North Star? Was that
Column
Burnham? No, Burnham.
Oh, that.
Burnham one.
Over
Yeah.
on the other property. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's as part of that parcel.
That
I
would
don't
probably
know if
come up
it's-
when we
this is
talked
the right-
about.
Right time to ask for that, especially if you're.
Yeah.
Because that's
You're actually asking for 5 acres.
On the
of a
other
different
side.
parcel.
Yeah.
And
That would
road
probably
and
come up when we talked about the CVS area property, right?
CVS
Right. When
and
the second, when
residential.
number 2, when that property comes up, and
That makes
that's,
sense.
that was my initial conversation with, although we didn't bring up the
Well,
road.
I
but
did
yeah.
ask Colleen in a chat, what's the zoning application for that piece? Because there's nothing on file in the county. And I don't know if Rosemarie has something, but I couldn't find anything on that there is a zoning application on file
And for CVS.
for that CVS parcel.
That
Yeah,
I
parcel
don't think
too,
that's
that's
out
what,
there now. It's
I
this,
think-
they're-
Colleen said end of the year, this year, right?
That it would be submitted.
for the Shreveport, right?
Yes.
I think she
I would
said
just
in
say-
the video, she says in the other 2 parcels, we hope to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we have, it seems like a pretty good list. Rick didn't have anything else to add. I don't think Jordan, I don't, Anand. I would second the motion as there is a motion on the floor at this time.
All right.
So I second it.
All in favor of the motion? Sue, do you want to, we know the list. All in favor of sending this?
Like, just a clarification, this isn't to say if you do all this, we'll approve. I mean, we're not.
We're voicing
I know.
concerns, right?
My understanding of this letter is this is what we've heard during our resident meeting. And
Right.
here's some concerns that we've, or something along.
I would
those
also say that maybe we have the caveat of before we go final, we should just review it one more time, right? Like as a board. I think we have the general intent, right? No, the letter
Oh, yeah,
itself,
yeah,
the letter, yeah.
Draft and then flip it.
Rick will send it out. Yeah.
Rick will send
So
it to us.
it sounds to me like we're taking a preview of we're motioning to send a letter with a list of items.
Yeah.
And then we're going to review the draft. We're also motioning to review the draft outside of a meeting before it's finalized and sent. Is that what this motion is?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we have to have a 6-0 consent or 7-0, I guess.
the letter.
Of the letter. Sure. I mean, if you guys want to,
Is that's not, I mean.
that's not typical. We don't
The
typically.
draft.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody just looks at the draft and
You're
we
gonna suggest-
don't vote on it. We just make,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
But
So you're not,
I'm saying we're not voting on the letter. We're just suggesting tweaks to the main body of the letter. So we don't have to leave this open to
Send
a
it.
vote. Yes,
After
yes.
review.
Is that fair?
I
mean,
think
we're-
we captured the
Yeah.
intent, right? I mean, we're acknowledging, like Rick said, many of the things that they did, the concessions they've already made in terms of, how they're working with us. And then to the point of the 5-6 things that Sue said, I think capturing that, we have the essence of it, right? And that's what we're voting on.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that we're not going to vote again on the letter once it's clear or clean by Rick. We're just going to offer suggestions. We agree that this is the letter in principle we're going to send. And if you have some tweak or some word that you would rather use over what Rick has provided, great, but we're not voting on it again. I just want to make sure we're not voting on it out of a meeting.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion from Sue, a second from Robbie, all in favor of this letter. That's 6-0 is what I see. So.
Brent, add to this, right? I have one point. So are we going to meet again before the next Board of Supervisor meeting?
Is our meeting before the next Board of Supervisors meeting?
Yes, it is before the next Board of Supervisors meeting.
We already have.
It is February 8th.
Yeah, theirs is
First or
the,
8th,
theirs is the
right?
15th. I know that for sure. Ours is the 8th.
The 8th.
Yeah. So we are.
That gives us a
ahead.
week and on.
Yeah.
And then, so what's the
Okay, yeah.
intent? Can we just agree by consensus of when we would like to submit this letter?
Tomorrow?
In the next-
Tomorrow. Oh, the letter's going on
As soon as
tomorrow. I'm
possible.
sorry. I thought that was a given. I'm sorry, Robbie.
I
Yes.
didn't catch that. Yeah,
We
okay.
didn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think the sooner the better. It gives them a chance to, and who knows, maybe, when is their next,
Uh, They've got two next week.
Session, they'll
Yeah.
address it.
The 25th, I think.
Do that list.
Next is the 25th.
What's that, Anand? I didn't hear you, bud. All right. So. Hang on, we're just finding the schedule. I got it right here. Hold on.
Oh, yes.
25th, I think. is the next session.
They have 4 more meetings coming up and they are.
25th is there, and 26th, 4th, and 7th.
25th, right?
Yeah, 25th, 26th, 4th and 7th. So next week 2 and the week after 2. And so when is our meeting? The Tuesday, the 8th. So all 5 sessions should be done.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right.
Are there
else?
is there anything else where we need to engage as a board in any upcoming events between now and the next meeting?
Well, there is the redistricting. I don't know when they are coming up with their narrowed list.
I haven't seen the narrowed list yet. I've been looking for that. I had seen something where they were going to narrow it down to 5, but
Oh, I thought it was 10.
well, I said that to Tony, and then all of a sudden there was something out there in the ether that said 5, and I haven't seen such a thing.
Oh,
He
yeah.
thinks it's
I
10.
thought, yeah, that's.
Somebody
what
thinks it's
it was,
10.
But I think in last Board of Supervisors, they down, I think they find us to 3 plans or something, and they said that
Yeah.
they'll give 1 plan
Yeah,
for public hearing.
in my opinion, we just keep an eye out for it. This should be a topic of discussion at the February meeting, because by that point it's narrowed down.
Well, and as one supervisor said, none of the plans are going to be what the final plan is.
No. They just going through this 10 years ago, 11 years ago now.
Right.
They tweaked it right up until the votes. Jim Burton almost torpedoed the whole thing right as they were voting for whichever map. So this goes right up to the very end, but come the next meeting, we should have a shortened list. We should get more proactively involved from that point, including speaking at the board again, trying to lobby for a few maps, or if not a map, and then, but that's a discussion for the next board meeting for sure.
Rick,
I also think, oh, go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say 2 points. Rick, if you can just keep us updated if you hear anything on that. The other request I have, Rick, for you or staff, could you email one of the other HOAs, South Riding, any of those, to see their experience with having data centers built by them and what they learned from that? Because some of them, and Supervisor Letourneau alluded to this, have some data centers quite close to them, and they may say, hey, if I had gone through this again, I would do whatever. And so if you would be able to do that with the connections you have, I think that probably would make it for us.
I'm 95% sure he's talking about the Route 50 data center, and then not only the debacle they had with the power lines coming up 50, but then they've dropped a substation right there that's very visible from Route 50 near that little chicken gas station place. I forget the name of it. Liberty.
But you would be able to reach out to your peers, right?
Yep. And I'm happy to reach out to Letourneau.
The other thing I think looking forward is we need to ask the Brambleton group if they will meet with us on the Shreveport South residential before it goes to planning commission.
So prior to all this happening,
I know you started,
they were going to come to the February meeting. So whether or not we can get them to the February meeting, we shall try. Okay, if you want to ask them to come.
Yeah, we've got to look at that agenda because it's a huge agenda.
All right, then maybe we can move them to the March meeting. But yes,
we might break the record from the last one.
5.
Let's shoot for 5 hours, huh?
Well, let's invite them to.
Because we've got insurance we have to do.
Why don't we wait until the March meeting on that? 'Cause I think we have time.
No.
No, not the March meeting and the insurance. March meeting, I'm inviting them to come talk to us. Is that?
Well, I think
But then there's the February stuff that's happening, right? In terms of with the developer. I know it's separate, but it is related, right? In our mind, it is anyway.
Okay, I mean, sure.
That could be a whole meeting.
I was going to say that's going to be a big meeting, I think.
We have to narrow the scope. I mean, so here's the other thing is when we have, and I've only been to 2 of these meetings now, but there's 5-hour, 6-hour, 4-hour, 3-hour meetings. We get to decision fatigue, right? So this topic that we're talking about was the last topic that we talked about. And at that point, everybody's just like wants to go to sleep and is tired, and we're not necessarily making the best decisions. So I would submit that just as we have some certain things that are mandatory that we do, that we also look at what are the most important decisions that we have to make as we create the agenda. We do that early in the meeting. And if it's other things that we just have to, make a kind of cursory decision on, we do that. If it's a mandatory briefing that we have to do on insurance, then that should probably not be the first thing that we do, but the most important critical things we have to address up front.
Yeah, usually when we invite people in, and the only thing I'll say, Robbie, is when we invite people in, we try to have it timed. So as opposed to them just waiting around until we're ready for them, that's why we try to do those first.
Or maybe we do a designated time, at a time, maybe it's like at 8 or like 7:15 or 7:30, whatever that is. But before that, hey, these are the critical decisions. And that's the agenda for next time. But what I do want to do is make a motion in regards to meeting externally, right? So as we meet with the developer, board of supervisors, that we do that in traveling in pairs. Like I said, memory is faulty. We can back each other up and just support each other. So that's my motion, whether that's the developer, board of supervisors, any other external meetings that we have as board members, that we do that in 2.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
I can see Jordan. I agree with that. I wonder if it's a motion or does that restrict us? Do we? I don't know most policy.
So yeah, I was going to say I support that, Robbie. to your point, I don't know that, I want to write it in a way that allows people to only represent the board and a material issue, but not prohibit somebody from having an individual conversation with Tony Buffington or whatever.
100%.
So I just don't know if my brain is at a place to process that right now at 9:30. So, but I support the idea.
Let me
Especially
just try and rephrase it and make it less less prohibitive or restrictive. So I'd say to the maximum extent possible, and not that we do this every time. So I'm just clarifying the motion that I'm putting up here.
So let me just ask the question: what are you specifically concerned about? Because obviously, something recently in your two meetings, you've seen something that you're concerned about.
No, I'm not addressing the concern. What I am saying is that our memories can be faulty and that we have to back each other up and that we can't always do that, right? So in certain cases, we're going to have to go one-on-one. Sure, got it. So to make this less restrictive, here's the clarification on the motion. And that is to the maximum extent possible in the spirit of ensuring that in the cases that I feel like I'm being like a lawyer here. Okay, so to the maximum extent possible, we travel in pairs for external engagements, knowing that that's not always the case.
Can you think about that and write it up so that, because I do agree with it. I'm concerned about how it's worded and what you just said. If you had to repeat it, could you do that?
Yeah, so I almost, Robbie, I know you're making a motion that I would almost ask if Rick can look at best practices or something like that, if we could look at this for the next meeting. If you're okay with that, Brian, to address, yes, I do, because I have specific concerns. If Tony said something and then he had to later apologize, to me, that's a concern. If someone else was there, if I was there, I could say, that's not what Brian said, and that would be good. The other point is right now, the relationship essentially with the developer is you and Rick, and you said previously, this was publicly at a meeting, so I think it was out there that you did not intend to run again. From a continuity perspective, in 3 years, that means it's only Rick that has a relationship with the developer. I know
next time. Yeah.
What's that?
No, she was just asking me something. Yeah. Listen, I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jordan. You're not done.
I was just going to say that's my concern is having the relationships. Yeah. And to Robbie's point, the backing up, and my memory's fallible too. I'm 40 now. I feel like an old man. So
yes, you are.
I have 3 kids. They make me feel old all the time. I think that is a valid point. I'm just worried about trying to do the wording right now, Robbie. That's my only concern. I share your sentiment.
So I will say for the record, over the past 10 years, even when there was only 2 or 3 of us residents on this board, we have always decided as a board when it was appropriate to send multiple members to do such. And, restricting in any way, shape, or form, I am completely against. However, to your sentiment, Jordan, and I'm assuming yours, Robbie, yes, I mean, you guys should get to know these folks, but that doesn't preclude you from reaching out to Tony Buffington or Matt Letourneau or anyone. I have tried to invite, as I know Rick has tried to invite the developer in to speak to us, and hopefully they have a reason to come talk to us. But quite honestly, at this point, there's 2 members of our board who are, our developer representatives, and B, they're kind of moving out of this development. And I realize that this kind of came to the forefront, but feel free to reach out to them. I mean, I'm sure Kim Adams, who sat here on this board for 18 years as the original president, would be more than interested in talking to any of you guys you want to talk to her. Feel free. I just don't want to see any. I just want to see any. Hang on, I'm just about done. I am against any kind of language that restricts any of us in any way, shape, or form from speaking to anybody, as long as we are not speaking as the board. So, sorry, I'm always going to shoot that down because I think that's terribly restrictive, no matter how you write it up. Go ahead, Anand.
Okay, to rephrase that motion, right? What I think, right, is instead of whoever be communicating with whoever the board of supervisor, anyone, not a developer, anything, it's better to get communicate to the board immediately, or is there very important information either in any of the channel, in email, or kind of quick letter or updates, which come to us. So that might be helpful for us to be all on the sync. Since you said the last meeting you had a chat with the developer promised something. We are nowhere board is in the picture, right? So I think that's where Ravi and Jordan also helping us to say that, okay, everybody on the board be clear on the communication. If whatever comes up or you had a chat, you get some update from them, update to the complete board so that everybody on the same page.
I will point out to the board that it was because I brought it to the board's attention, the meeting I had with Kim Adams, that we are here.
Brian, I'm not asking you to take this personally. I'm just trying to clarify
here. Call you every time I talk to Kim Adams or Tony Buffington.
Brian, that's not what we're saying.
Brian, you're taking it personally. Let me just try and clarify. I think I wrote this out. I'll read it out to everybody. So here it is. In the spirit of continuity, message synchronization, and recording of engagements, to the maximum extent possible, let us as board members travel in pairs for external engagements when acting on behalf of the board, not precluding any engagement as residents.
Okay, so that's your motion.
That's my motion.
I will second that to the maximum extent possible.
Can you read it again?
Sure, absolutely. In the spirit of continuity, message synchronization, and recording of engagements, to the maximum extent possible, let us as board members travel in pairs for external engagements when acting on behalf of the board, not precluding any engagements as residents.
Yeah, I would second that.
All in favor of that motion?
I'm processing.
We're still processing.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And maybe I could also write it better, and maybe you can help me out with that, Sue.
No, I'm not a wordsmither. I have to be honest with you. I'm thinking about my leftover pizza at home. I'm starving.
Does that limit?
Yes.
Is that to?
I don't think that limits anything.
Supervisors and developers, is that anyone?
It seems like it's anyone.
So only when we're speaking on behalf of the board, right? Like, so whatever you do as a resident, you do whatever you want, right? I mean, that's your choice. But if you're representing the board, as we've said in a board meeting, like, hey, you're going to talk to them about this, right? Everybody gives a thumbs up. Then let's back each other up so we can have the right context and continuity. We say the message and we write our notes down based on what they say. You know?
Would you consider a friendly amendment to include staff in that more than one? And the reason I suggest that is that we all have very busy lives, and oftentimes these engagements happen during the business day. And I think it would be helpful to be able to have Rick I mean, again, if we're talking about outside engagements representing the board, that could be with FSR, it could be with, any of our contractors.
Does this include Rick's meetings? Is that what you're saying?
Right now, it's just for the board.
No. This is just
Okay.
see what Rosemary is saying.
If we're engaging
I can
on
serve as
behalf
the
of
number
the
two.
board, that Rick can serve as that second
I got it.
so that we, in recognition of the fact that we may not ever be able to get two board members' calendars to sync up for some of the daytime obligations.
I agree 100%. I wouldn't say staff. I mean, unless you think it's better, but I would say the general manager. I mean, you're right there, right? And I think you're as read into all of these issues as all of us, Rick. I fully support that amendment.
So how would that read?
I have no idea. My brain doesn't work that well.
Okay, so why don't we just
Why don't we table it?
Take this
It doesn't need to have to.
Doesn't have to happen tonight.
Yeah.
But I
Can you
think it's
send
a
that to
discussion
us?
point, right?
Can we agree to have that on the agenda for next meeting? Can we have a preview of the written motion?
Yes.
Put it on the agenda for the next meeting. That's fine.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I hate to do it, but I just have to say, I think somewhere in our looking back, we also need to perhaps in engaging with Supervisor Buffington's office, and I'm even going to suggest that it needs to be a letter, that we remind the supervisor that the HOA, as much as we do want a seat at the table and we want to be able to communicate and represent, it should not ever preclude our residents from engaging directly with the supervisor.
Yep.
And that the comments that have been happening to say that, you know, redirecting folks back to the HOA, and again, not specific to the data center discussion, but to the
cell phone tower.
Yeah, the cell tower discussion, and really other things have come along the way. I mean, I think it's just so important that this is they're as much his constituents as they are ours. You know what I'm saying? We should be another conduit for that communication, but it shouldn't preclude constituents from addressing the supervisor.
Yeah.
So
And that might be a good thing to come from the board. I mean, I'm happy to draft it. I've actually sent that message to them twice. One was in the second letter, and that went to the entire board. I believe there was, you know, just we want to reaffirm our position with the cell tower. But the closing statement was something like, but that does not preclude you from listening to our residents.
absolutely. And now with redistricting,
And then I
I think
followed up with an email in regards to this mess, because he had put on about the HOA rep and was just sending that out as a blanket and went to other associations, not just Brambleton. So that was a whole mess.
Yeah, I think your email, to Rosemary's point, your email was good, Rick, but I agree, a formal letter, because that really frustrated me with the cell tower, because he was basically saying, from my perspective to the residents, if you want to give feedback to your public representative, go to your HOA. We are not a government entity. We can facilitate and take feedback from residents and then share that with the supervisors of the county. But he is elected, he is a public official. He should be engaging with individual constituents.
And
That's his job.
encouraging it.
Yeah.
And
So
just to go back to that, there are times like with the cell tower that the board of directors of Brambleton is going to have a perspective that, I mean, not all of our residents are going to agree with.
Sure.
And they should have the absolute right to communicate that to us and to communicate that to their elected representative. And I think,
And yeah, and he shouldn't discount their opinion just because the board may feel differently than that individual
Right.
resident.
so Rick, is that something you want to take a stab at writing, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
can
from
write.
the board, I think it needs to come,
Yep.
but we can certainly
I'll
look at
draft
that for
it.
the
I can
next
put
meeting.
Brian's name on it if you're good.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
That's okay with everybody
That's
else.
not probably going to happen tomorrow, but
No.
that will happen in the near.
Yeah. Do we need a motion for that, or we're all just by acclamation, we agree?
Yeah, by consent.
Letter should go. Yeah, yes. That's where all unrest happen in our community here due to cell tower.
All right, given that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, you have to make the motion.
Oh, yes. See how tired I am.
So moved.
So move. I moved that.
So moved.
Fair enough. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Night.